summary of the book, The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I have just downloaded to Audible, and I shall listen to it this week as I drive up to Chattanooga for the Viva Bonds Meet Up 1776 fundraiser. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a... I hear myself. Hold on one second. The Picture of Dorian Gray is a classic novel by Oscar Wilde that explores themes of beauty, morality, and the corrupting influence of hedonism. It might not be exactly what it's about, but I'll show you what I'm getting at after we listen to this.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI and you want to browbeat gay people and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years, and you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes, you want to demonize them and call them rapists and felons and all this
Look at that face.
shit when the felon is the teeny weeny mushroom cock piece of shit.
Look at this face. I tell you, hatred is a consuming force. It brings out the ugly and puts it on the surface.
Cankle's McTaco tits at the top of the ticket. I have fucking had it from top to bottom. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism. Get your fat asses out of the Mexican restaurant. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel, because nobody wants to see your fucking smug ass, teeny weeny, pink arm, big gut around. No.
Look at it's an absolute fascinating study in the consuming force of hatred and how it can turn what would otherwise be a relatively decent looking human into an actual demon, like an actual demon.
Nobody wants to see that shit. No one.
She's an actual witch. It was when she said it's like the sneer when she said there was Indian food or the Chinese food. Look at this. Oh, it is awful. You end up looking like what you spew. And I have to be very careful about that myself, because the world in which we live can make one very angry. But if you let it consume you, you will end up looking like a demonic witch. And when I say that she could otherwise be a normal looking person, she has a striking resemblance to two actresses. I was going crazy trying to remember one of them. One that I remembered was Laura Dern. And the reason why I'm reluctant to compare that evil demonic witch to Laura Dern is Laura Dern, I think, is nice. But, you know, if this woman were beautiful on the inside, that other wench over there, her name is Welch, which is quite funny because she's quite a wench. She could look beautiful. She reminded me also of the wife from Ozarks, which I had to look up, and her name is Laura Linney. This is what you could look like if you're not consumed by hatred to the point where you literally turn yourself into a contorted face that spews nonsense and hatred. And the ultimate irony of all of it, this woman, white liberal woman, and I'm channeling Malcolm X yet again, her solution is to literally bankrupt the immigrants that she's adopted as pet projects for her own personal control. Bankrupt them. Yeah, the buying power of half of America. They should not be allowed to go to Mexican restaurants and Chinese restaurants and go to Cracker Barrel, as if Cracker Barrel is a bad place. I mean, it's an American-made chain. I looked up the history of Cracker Barrel because if it turned out that it was actually, founded by immigrants, it would have been hilarious. It's founded by Americans who are pretty much, to some extent, the descendants of immigrants. She wants to bankrupt the very minorities that she purports to protect, because she knows so well and so much better than immigrants. Brother, the white Trump supporters shouldn't be able to go to Mexican restaurants and Chinese restaurants. It goes to show you what she like. She looks at a Latino person and thinks Mexican restaurant tacos. She looks at a Chinese person and she thinks dim sum Chinese food. I mean, this is what racist white liberal women think like. But her idea is, let's financially harm the immigrants But what about the Black Trump supporters? What about the Asian Trump supporters? What about the Latina Trump supporters? Do they get to enjoy their own food? Do they get to eat at white restaurants? Whatever, I was going to call her Laura. What's her name? Psychopath. She is an evil, demonic witch. And it eventually comes out to the face. Now, I've read the punchline of A Picture of Dorian Gray. I shouldn't have done it. But I'm still going to listen to the book on audiobook because for the amount of times I've referenced The Picture of Dorian Gray, I should probably read it. Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, it is Sunday night. It is time for you all to get your daily dose, weekly dose of law, or at least the weekend dose of law, because I'm live weekly, daily, 3 o'clock. Next week, I'm going to be off on a very different schedule because of travel, but we'll deal with that in a bit. We've got our Viva Barnes 1776 fundraiser event next weekend in Chattanooga, and I'm going to take a meandering route up to Chattanooga. It's going to be amazing. I've shared the link if you want to, what is it called? When you put an amount in on an auction. I guess it's a bet. If you want to place a bid on an auction, we're auctioning stuff, and the proceeds go to 1776 Law Center so that Barnes and his enterprise can continue doing what they're doing. We're going to get that was not even English. We're going to have one hell of a show tonight because the world has gone batshit crazy. And I just saw it here because JJ Bocabella says Quebec Nordiques, WAHA Hall of Famer, Viva Fry. I'm old enough to remember the Quebec Nordiques. That was my Chris Chelios, Mats Naslund, who else? That was my era of hockey. Since then, zero interest in hockey. All right, but before we get into today's show, and we want to talk about, the ugly wenches who let the evil that they feel physically contort them into evil. You want to be healthy in life, people. And in order to do that, what you want to do is take care of your body. Take care of your body, your mind, your spirit, because it's all a trifecta of health. But the sponsor of tonight's show is Where's my Qualia? I got mine on my desk. It's made out of glass. So I try to keep it in a safe spot. This is the Qualia Mind. Qualia Senolytics, people. You get older, things hurt, you take longer to recover. Some people think it's normal aging, and to some extent it might be, but there are things you can do to help yourself. Qualia Senolytic, the first of its kind formula designed to help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells. For those of you who don't know what they are, they're called zombie cells. The zombie cells, basically the way you think of it is your body has cells and some of them die like leaves off a tree. And if the leaves on the tree stay there, they waste energy from the tree, slow everything down. Senolytics is a science field revolutionizing human aging. A big culprit behind that middle-aged feeling can be senescent cells, aka zombie cells that linger in your body after their useful function, wasting your energy and resources. Breaking it down more simply, the accumulation of zombie cells can lead to less energy, slower workout recovery, joint discomfort, and basically that feeling of getting old. Qualia Senolytic is a groundbreaking, clinically tested supplement with 9 vegan plant-derived compounds that help your body naturally eliminate those zombie senescent cells, helping you feel years younger in just months. You take 6 pills a day for 2 days, month after month. That's all you need, and it will naturally eliminate the zombie cells from your body to make you feel better at a cellular level. Go over to qualialife.com/Viva. You'll get 15% off. Let me show you what else they got here. They've got a number of products. The senescent cells, it's the pack on the top. Qualia Senolytics. You take 2 of those day after day, and you get rid of the zombie cells. And hopefully you end up feeling and looking younger. Everybody knows how old I am. I don't know if I'm looking older and don't feel it, or if I don't realize that I look older than I think I look, or that I feel, because I still feel like a 16-year-old kid, but I'm hoping I'm doing okay. A little bit of gray hairs in the beard, hairs growing in weird places on my earlobe. I don't know why I get hairs growing on my ear. The TMI of the evening is that I get here. That doesn't make any sense. Some hair turns gray and then you start spouting hair from like ear. Makes no sense. All right, link is in the description. Until Barnes gets here. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Super chats, rumble rants, all that jazz. I do my best. If we miss any of them and you're going to be miffed, don't give them. I don't want anybody feeling miffed. We're going to have our after party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where we will read all of the tipped questions, $3, $5 more. We pretty much get to all of them. I think I heard Barnes in the backdrop. There he is, sir. Robert, how goes the battle?
Good. I got my Peaky Blinders hat that came in, so feeling good about that. The 1776 Law Center online auction is now live. I sent you the link in
I shared it. Let me bring it up because I'll tell you one thing that's kind of pissing me off over there. I told Lectern guy I would get around to auctioning it off for a charity. Tried to sell it on eBay. Those sons of bitches took it down because it was like promoting violence or something. These are the items that are,
and there's some more coming in. Maybe I think we got the lectern up there. Or it will be up there. We got legal time, all kinds of trips, all kinds of artwork that people have donated, including the great wooden flag that it's further down there.
yeah.
People have donated a wide range of interesting, cool, fun things. Some of these are institutional sponsors that give discounted access to trips and things like that. And basically, the surplus of the proceeds goes to 1776 Law Center. But then you further down there's time for legal consultation, all kinds of stuff included in there. So you have 1 week. It's a silent online auction to put in your bid, and the winners will be announced next Monday.
I may have already indicated what has piqued my interest, and now I'm going to go back. And everyone forget what you just saw there. Don't go bid on that one. The lectern is down here. The board from our member of our community, whose name escapes me every time I try to think of it, he's got an Etsy shop. Oh, goodness. I'll get someone will post the link and a bunch of stuff here. It's amazing. All right. And Robert, the event starts this Friday.
Yes, this Saturday.
Saturday. And it's going to be fantastic. Robert, do you believe what's going on in the world? I mean, we're going to get...
We got a wild list. On Tuesday, I will be live with the Duran at 10 a.m. Eastern time, discussing what are the possibilities of peace in Europe with the Trump-Putin summit being announced for Alaska. So we'll do a deep dive. We'll discuss it in brief tonight, but the deep dive will be there with the Duran on Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Otherwise, our pretty even split on what topics people liked for tonight. The number one topic was, can Trump order or will Trump's order for a new census be upheld as legal and constitutional? We also have Trump is suing federal judges. The judges are claiming they're immune from suit. How's that going to turn out? We've got a $50 million bounty being announced on a foreign president being alleged to be head of a drug cartel in Maduro. We've got scandals. We've got Epstein subpoenas and Russiagate grand juries. Vice President Vance was discussing that this morning, amongst other topics, on the Fox show with Maria. I've always mispronounced
Artiromo.
That's good. You got it. We've got Quaranto proceedings in Texas about the redistricting and the attempts to a bunch of legislators to flee the state. We've got big tech. Is big tech helping perverts spy and even kidnap your children? That is part of a major lawsuit. In addition, a big tech lawsuit is Facebook wiretapping you and doing the equivalent of a pen register. We've got that lawsuit. And Rumble wins big against California speech laws. Then we've got the left is suing Robert Kennedy, claiming they have a right to billions of dollars in DEI contracts for some of the dumbest, craziest, I'll read one or two of them, craziest contracts in the world. Robert Kennedy was busy canceling all mRNA future work. That was causing some pharma lobbyists to scream at Swampy Susie to get Trump to reverse it. We'll talk about that. Big settlements. Gina Carano case that we discussed. Some people were saying that would go nowhere. It was going to be dismissed. Some of the big Hollywood lawyer types. Well, they turned out wrong. Disney ended up writing a big fat check and settling with Gina Carano and Ripple. We get to settlement with the SEC for no more harassment of crypto. We've got a few bonus topics. Medical students suing over fees. Blake Lively loses again. That's what she's really good at these days in law and sometimes on the big screen. Ethan Klein, HR 3, got a big win in a subpoena over Reddit. What is his fair use case all about? Are response videos going to be DOA in the future? He was one of the people who established the right to do a response video years ago. And then we've got the right to moonshine. Pay for play Pam Bondi is apparently going to continue to pursue an unconstitutional action in that respect, pursuing another bad appeal. Of course, that assumes she knows about it. Lord knows, with pay for play Pam. Then we've got some board questions about what's happening with Tish James, Adam Schiff. Can Peanut the Squirrel get a little justice? Tariffs. What about Nate Morris and Paul Dans? We're going to be interviewing Paul Dans at some point very soon, the person challenging the childless, churchless war whore, Lady Lindsey Graham, who was busy crying this week about the possibility of peace in Ukraine. People asking about the special attorney statute because there's criminal defendants bringing motions to dismiss, and the crazy New Jersey courts so hate Alina Habba, they're granting these motions to dismiss criminal indictments. What's going on there? We got Visa and MasterCard continuing to debank people. Will Trump's effort, including reaching gamers on Steam? We got Workaday getting sued for AI discriminating against employees. Maybe AI is going to run it's had copyright trouble in one area. Now it's running into workplace discrimination in another. And then questions about pot going down to a lower level to effectively decriminalizing it that Trump is proposing. Sagar is all shaking about it because he just can't handle all the potheads, apparently. So we got that, and then all the questions tonight. So busy.
We will not get hung up on too many subjects for too long. But Robert, there's one I'm going to add just because it would be wrong not to add it. You're following what's going on in Canada?
Oh, yeah. If you go to the woods, you get a fine. Listen, the guy makes a video about how ridiculous the thing is, and he's getting fined.
$28,000. He's going to be on the show tomorrow at 3:00. Stay tuned for that. I might have some lawyers. I think the JCCF are getting involved in it, Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Listen to this. This is Newfoundland, Robert. I won't play the whole thing.
So as we said, we have taken decisive action to help address this situation. Yesterday, we announced we would increase fines for violating the forest fire regulations. And as I said today, we'll share the details. So effective today, new fines will range from $50,000 to $150,000.
That's not funny.
For a first offense, when a ticket is issued, fines will increase from $75 to $50,000.
To 50.
And imprisonment in default of payment will increase from 3 days up to 6 months.
I'll stop it there. Robert,
you still have imprisonment for debt in Canada?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, do you not have that in the States if you don't pay a fine, if you don't pay a judgment?
It's unconstitutional to imprison someone for debt in America.
No, I know, but as was my understanding as well. And everybody says, well, you don't go to jail. Like, this was one of the arguments about the COVID fines. Well, you don't go to jail for that. You go to jail for not paying. It's like, that is the exact same thing. $50,000 to $100,000, by the way, it will bankrupt people and destroy them. That's in Newfoundland. So you got, it was Nova Scotia that started this. Newfoundland has followed suit. I want to say New Brunswick as well, but I'm not 1,000% certain, because they've now declared it an emergency, a climate emergency for forest fires. You can't go into the forest now at all. And and they're just one province is getting crazier than the other. And you got your jackasses in Ottawa and your jackasses throughout the Canada that work for the government that say, what's the big deal? Just stay home. It's endless. It's COVID 2.0. And when I heard a $50,000 to $100,000, 6 months in jail, increasing the penalty if you don't pay. The guy who got the ticket, I always blank on his last name. It's EVE. It's Ever. Is coming on tomorrow to talk about it. $28,000 and change, because it's $25,000 plus $3,000 for taxes, because the government taxes you on their fines. And
really, I didn't know that. That is wild. Oh, Tommy that would do something like that.
I had to double check because, like I said, what goods and services it? Oh yeah, that's right. It's tyranny, and you pay taxes on that. And then they force a contribution to what they call it's not HVAC, but it's something like that. It's victims, the victims of violent crime. They have a fund that you donate to so that they can get compensation from criminals who don't have the money to compensate them. That's Canada, people. But Robert, we'll start with Pam Bondi, because that also has a video that I want to play about. I see this. And again, this is not, I was going to make a funny joke. I'll tell you what the joke was afterwards, but I didn't want people misunderstanding it and thinking I'm criticizing. But I don't know that I agree with this. So let's play this here.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
I'll pause it there. We don't need to play the whole thing. I saw this and I sort of thought it was a joke, but I'm not trying to laugh. Like, the underlying subject matter is kind of serious, but I was like, is he not the president of Venezuela? Like, and I have to Google. I was like, okay, he is the president. He hasn't been overthrown. He's not in exile. And I was going to reply like, hey, Pam, he's at the, whatever the palace is called now. I forgot the name. It's like, he's at the palace. You can send me I'll DM you so that you can send me the 25 million. I don't even need the full 50. How the hell do you issue a bounty on someone who is nonetheless an elected official, albeit he's probably guilty of the things that they're doing? I would imagine that's what the International Criminal Court is for, not bounties. And like you said, like imagine a foreign country putting a bounty on Trump's head. I think Iran did it, and I think they designate those countries and those governments, rightly so, bad names. Like, how is this humanly possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much what we did with Noriega, where we accused him of being a drug dealer and went and invaded for the purposes of executing a search warrant. So, in an arrest warrant. I have problems with this. I think it's bad policy. That I get the criticism of Maduro. They could indict Maduro. That's one dynamic of if they can prove that Maduro is organizing drug distribution in the United States in violation of U.S. federal law. But there's a difference between that and announcing $50 million bounties on elected leaders of foreign governments. And do we want governments to start doing this? Because they'll reciprocate. At some point, they'll start issuing warrants for President Trump. And when he's no longer president, then he can be extradited. Let's say a Democrat takes over next, and now they extradite Trump to some foreign country for this. I think the prior protocol that we don't use domestic criminal procedures to try to enforce domestic criminal law against elected foreign leaders, period, elected or not, that I think that custom and protocol was a better one to follow. And so I wasn't a big fan of this. I saw a lot of people cheering it on not thinking about what happens if they do it to us. Who are you giving the power to? What precedent are you setting? I see people failing to ask that question, and that's a problem.
But I mean, for me, it was just a purely practical thing. They know where he is. They know what he's doing. What
they're
information?
Pretending he's not the elected president, and they're pretending he's just another drug dealer.
But who are they offering that $50 million to? Because what the information leading
to his arrest and conviction and imprisonment
in America,
condition of the bounty in the United States.
So they would have to indict him under American law.
Secure his presence. They would have to extradite him or somehow get him or kidnap him back to the United States, and he'd have to be prosecuted and punished. And the bounty person would have to be able to show they are the reasons why that happened. The bounties are not easy to get in many cases. People kind of think they're easier than they are. But basically, it's $50 million to go in and kidnap a foreign leader. I think that's not well advised.
And I mean, not that it would never not be known, but I would imagine I wouldn't want to be the one to get that $50 million, because I think that itself would come with its own problems, like retaliatory conduct.
Well, unless you're Sean Penn and pretend you had nothing to do with it in the case of.
I heard it, and I was just thinking, like, who is this possibly directed at? Like, there's no American citizen on earth who's going to have more information than the American government to indict, extradite, and jail.
It's to help American companies go in there and take back over Venezuelan oil. That's kind of clear what it is, and that means it's on pay for play Pam's top of her list, because other things she just completely misses.
Well, let's get into that. The I won't say absurdity, but the questionable nature of that bounty and the video putting it out. I didn't go to look at the replies, but I can imagine what the replies are virtually unanimously. What else is Pam Bondi up to these days, Robert?
So remember we covered the right to moonshine case?
Yep.
So that case is much bigger than the right to moonshine. Because what the federal government was doing was saying you couldn't make something in your own home. That's what the federal government was like. How does the federal government have jurisdiction to say I can go to prison if I make my own beer, if I have my own, in this case, my own still, to make my own whiskey? How is that within the province? And so it goes back to wheat and some other cases where they drastically expanded federal jurisdiction. But here they didn't even claim this impacted interstate commerce. And remember their excuse was, this is pursuant to our taxing clause.
At the time, I thought it would be pursuant to safety, because those stills tend to catch fire and explode if you don't know what you're doing.
But that's not subject to federal regulation usually in the first place, unless you can point it out it connects to interstate commerce. Because otherwise you have the feds taking over everything for local and state government. And so the enumerated powers of Congress is they have the right to tax. And this includes the right to regulate through taxing and spending power, providing for the common defense and general welfare. If you wonder why Congress designs its tax laws often in weird ways that don't appear to have much to do with revenue gathering, this is why. It's their way to regulate. But the courts have always made clear there's limits to that. You can't just regulate and pretend it's a tax. Now, Roberts went through great loops to pretend that the personal mandate somehow was a tax. in the case of Obamacare, but that's the furthest they've gone. Here, the district court pointed out this literally can't be a tax because you're not raising any revenue. There's not even an attempt to raise revenue. In fact, there's no revenue assigned to it. You're simply saying you can't do this and calling it a tax. It's like, that's not a tax. That has nothing to do with taxing. It has nothing to do with spending. So he goes, it's outside your enumerated powers. In fact, one of my favorite phrases from the court case, one of the up-and-coming federal judges, by the way, Judge Pittman out of Texas, he said, quote, Congress statutorily fermented a crime, which was appropriate in a case concerning stills. So my hope, this has been a law since 1868. This was an incredible abuse of constitutional powers. People are like, hey, Barnes loves this because he's probably got moonshine still in his backyard in East Tennessee. I wouldn't mind having a moonshine still in my backyard, but I could go to prison for 5 years under this crazy rule. And it clearly wasn't a part of their enumerated powers. And that's the bigger point. We've got to limit and claw back the excesses given in the Obamacare case to letting them do whatever they want. In the wheat case, way back before that, to regulate our ability to grow our own food, make our own drinks, do our own things that have nothing to do with commerce, have nothing to do with federal power, nothing to do with what Constitution gave them. And I had hoped that the appeal would be dismissed once the Trump administration came in. But once again, these are little would-be moonshiners or little homemade whiskey makers for their home province, solely for their own home personal consumption. But they don't have big donations. So they haven't made a big donation to the Ballard Partners that gets the attention. That's the one Roger Stone was pretending that Susie Wiles wasn't really that tied to when he was busy scamming and covering for swampy Susie. Unless you make it, the right donation to those kind of people, pay for play, Pam Bondi doesn't pay any attention. And now they're pursuing the appeal and pursuing the Biden era's definition that their power to tax allows them the power to run every single thing in your life. Well, so it's a case to pay attention to.
Yeah, well, and if I'm being not fair, but objective when it comes to the analysis of government, I mean, why would they not want to maintain all that power?
Well, because the Trump administration and the Trump voter base opposes this form of power, and Trump himself said so during the Obamacare debates. So that's the issue. It's directly against what he campaigned on. But pay for play Pam doesn't care unless you can write a fat check. So yes, you're right. She's happy to have all the illegal, unconstitutional power that she herself sued the Obama administration as Attorney General in Florida to claim the federal government cannot have this power constitutionally. And now she's running to the courts for the ATF, reversing her position because nobody's paid off her pals and allies to make sure the case goes away. It's another embarrassment for the constant run of embarrassments of pay for play Pam.
Robert, I just happened to see this. Mayana says, Viva Barnes, how did Bondi convince Trump to put a $50 million bounty on President of Maduro? The Trump admin met with Maduro in Flores in the mansion. Did Pam do it herself? I mean, what do you think it's a Trump tactic to coerce him to negotiate?
Say much about it, so this tells me it came right from her.
Very interesting. Okay, Robert. So do you, I mean, on the distilling thing, do you think, is it in fact the case, or you think that these, big distillers, Diageo and the like, are lobbying to have this maintained so that they don't have competition from
I think there's nobody up there lobbying to stop it. Mm-hmm. And that's why she's going along with Biden era. Unless there's a big, huge public outcry or there's moneyed lobbyists, Bondi will continue to push Biden era policies that contradict the Trump administration, like she's doing in the Brooke Jackson case, taking the side of Pfizer to dismiss and not allow that PTM case, that fraud claim to go forward, proving the vaccine wasn't safe and effective, wasn't even a vaccine, didn't prevent COVID-19. They lied to President Trump to get that approval and authorization and money, and it even delayed its production or the announcement of its production until after the election in 2020, solely to hurt Trump. Why is she taking their side, pretending that the Kennedy and the Trump administration have the exact same vaccine policy that you can't question anything called a vaccine? It's because there's deep ties between Swampy Susie and Pfizer. Roger Stone was running around lying, trying to pretend that wasn't the case because he wants to maintain his relationships with Swampy Susie, who's the gatekeeper to President Trump, and pay for play Pam. So it's just a continuing pattern that unless you have big public outcry or big donations, Pam Bondi doesn't deliver justice, period.
Is there a segue, or do I want to talk about the?
Now that did not stop Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. from announcing no more money for mRNA vaccines.
So he's being sued by NIH for. Am I mixing up two here? Or he's being sued by...
different. He hasn't yet been sued on this one.
Okay, fine. So flesh this one out.
So what is there was $500 million of taxpayer money shifting to a vaccine strategy of future vaccines, not just the COVID vaccine, being mRNA vaccines. And the problem is mRNA had never been successfully used, period, before the COVID vaccine. There was over 181 different studies since the COVID vaccine detailing and documenting how it is not safe, how it is not effective, how it is not a useful platform for future vaccines, how more people were harmed by the so-called COVID vaccine than were helped by the COVID vaccine. A complete disaster from any medical or public policy perspective. So Robert Kennedy came out and announced all those grants are terminated. No more money to mRNA vaccines. He goes, we are shifting back to the traditional vaccine model, which is that you have a whole virus, that you use the virus itself as
the live virus as opposed to the mRNA. What's astonishing to me is that people are bitching and moaning and saying that this is going to kill people. The fact that he's pulling funding for mRNA research, other than the fact that it had never worked before the COVID shot, it didn't work with the COVID shot. And so the idea that it would replace live virus vaccines is it's insanity. But people are going to say, how are we ever going to make it work if they pull the funding for mRNA research?
It's because what he's pointed out is that it's just not a successful platform, that the money needs to be spent on something that's going to work, and that not something that we now have over 180 medical studies, scientific studies that have been published and produced across the world, proving that mRNA didn't even work in the COVID context, has never worked and they've been testing this for 15 years. And his point was COVID proved it didn't work, not that it did work. And so the only excuse for all that $500 million of taxpayer money to funnel into mRNA vaccines was solely predicated that it was a tremendous, undisputable success in the COVID vaccine context. And Robert Kennedy came out and said, no, it isn't. No, it wasn't. Now, already their big pharma is lobbying Swampy Susie to try to get Trump to reverse Secretary Kennedy's position. I don't think Trump will do so. That gives you an idea, though, of the continuing corrupt influence that big pharma has over aspects of the Trump administration. But it was the right decision by Secretary Kennedy. He had over 180 decisions that had the basis for it. He has complete constitutional and statutory discretion over the continued funding of those grants. Now, that does relate to the grants they are trying to sue him over. I'm sure they'll sue him over this coming soon. They're suing him over DEI grants for Head Start and other things.
Well, actually, just not to go there for 1 second.
Yeah.
He pulled the he withdrew the recommendation of the jab for kids and pregnant women not long ago.
Correct.
Late May.
And then came out and recommended it not being recommended, period. So and then furthered with that with no more funding for mRNA vaccines, period. And saying they were net negative. So he continues to get everything he can get done. He continues to move, and that there are people who are worried about the pace of action, not recognizing that anything he does, they're going to sue over, not recognizing the power of big pharma still within the Trump administration, thanks to Swampy Susie Wiles. And that's why Roger Stone was out there attacking me personally, because he didn't want people to know about Swampy Susie's deep ties to big pharma. I mean, the only other person, the other person who likes to libel a lot in this space is, of course, Laura Loser, otherwise known as Laura Loomer. I got somebody loomered. Who, when she's not busy libeling people in the big pharma space, she ultimately, there was enough public blowback about her getting that individual sacked that was well respected in the health space that he's now back employed. So big pharma failed. They got a 1 week success, enough of a blowback to expose what Laura Loser was doing. Now, of course, she's busy libeling Marjorie Taylor Greene when she's not libeling Tucker Carlson. Because, when Israel's not busy murdering journalists like they were earlier today, pretending they're all terrorists, they're busy using their illicit influence in the United States in different ways. But ultimately, thankfully, Kennedy's people were able to push back and he's now back reinstated as one of the more creative, effective minds during the COVID era to push the Maha agenda forward, despite their big pharma allies in the White House and outside of it, and people like Laura Loomer, who otherwise she just takes her money or gets her. If she's not on the Israeli payroll, she might as well be.
Well, what irritates me is that she mentioned the Jewish space lasers again with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it has had such a Mandela effect.
I made that clear. The only person I've ever known to use Jewish space lasers is Viva in his fishing success.
Well, let me. I hadn't heard the news, and I'm going to be slow to this because the last time we heard of journalists, getting killed, they were allegedly participating in the events of October 7. But this is being reported.
Israel has said, Election Wizard has said that Israel's claim is that they did target him deliberately, and they consider him. They didn't say Hamas; they said a terrorist. This guy is very prominent. He works with Al Jazeera. He's been in documentary films. All the rest, I'm not buying Israel's story, to be blunt about it.
Yeah, I'm going to give Bongino had the 72 hours. When it comes to this, you got to wait like a couple of weeks before the New York Times issues its retraction. Al Jazeera, definitely politically skewed, but they do decent reporting. Okay, so hold on. So that was the mRNA.
We pretend it's an accident because people forget. Remember, I think we bombed them twice. We bombed Al Jazeera's head during Iraq for the second time around for sure. Another time when we kept murdering Al Jazeera journalists, and we're like, oops, dadgum, that bomb went off. But that's not apparently, according to Election Wizard, what Israel is claiming. It apparently is that Israel is saying they did it deliberately, that they did, and because they just consider him a terrorist. They didn't produce any immediate proof of this. And it's going to backfire around the world. I mean, it's just, but they don't care at this point. That's obvious.
Oh, I'll just say one thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I said I'd pay $100 to anybody who found anything of her actually using the term. And then somebody says, no, she was talking about weather control. And it was quite clear what she was talking about. She's like, she's talking about technology that exists, mentioning people who are involved in it, who happen to be Jewish. That's not Jewish space lasers. That's just all her opinion.
It's Laura Loomer making stuff up. She's been caught lying about people, libeled Robert Kennedy repeatedly, libeled others repeatedly. It's who she is. People should quit pretending she's an independent investigative journalist. She's no such thing. She's a wannabe ripoff of James O'Keefe. She's nothing like James O'Keefe. There's a reason probably why O'Keefe doesn't work with her on a continuing basis these days. And the people can hopefully start to ignore. She weaseled her way in through Israeli connections into the Trump world. People are like, how did this kind of permanent loser? Looks like a trans prostitute, weasel her way into the Trump world. It's because of Israeli connections. She was out there telling people that the big pro-Israeli funders in America are more MAGA than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Come on, quit pretending, quit feigning, quit acting. She's gonna be a one-stop wonder. She's gonna fade from any relevance, and Israel is not doing itself any favors with these kind of nasty smear campaigns against people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And to my friends out there that are deeply pro-Israel, you're hurting your own cause by pushing this nonsense.
Okay, so RFK Jr. is pulling funding for mRNA.
But he got sued for trying to say no more DEI contracts.
Well, hold on, but the NIH was suing him. That wasn't over DEI.
That was a different one.
Okay, fine. So I feel like this. Robert, I have to have like a checklist board of the lawsuits. Okay, so go with the DEI ones, and then we'll cover the NIH lawsuit afterwards.
Yes. Also a little word of the wise. I told people Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to sue people for all. Marjorie Taylor Greene made her money from her construction family business going back years. She did not make her money from Congress. There's a certain prominent pro-Israel account that's libeling her currently. And I was like, be careful. I live right up the road from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's got plenty of smart, skilled lawyers who will be willing to take those libel suits. So people better be a little more cautious going forward. Just a little word of the wise. The DEI, it was, they were using like Head Start and other programs for this. Listen to this. This was millions and millions of dollars and to paid for people to study, quote, anti-racist healing in nature to protect the telomeres, I don't even know what that is, of transitional age BIPOC. I guess that means some form of people.
It's person of color. It's geez. I'm gonna have to look it up. I forget
what that is. And so Robert Kennedy came in and is like, this isn't science. Can we get rid of the corrupt big pharma science? That's one. And two, can we get rid of all this partisan political garbage? So he canceled about $1 billion that was going to go out for this.
But okay, it's
sued in a federal court enjoined him, said you have to give those people that money right now.
It's black, indigenous people of color, and it would seem that people of color.
Telomeres. What the heck is that? Telomeres of transitional age?
Hold on.
What does that even mean?
Telomeres of transitional age. Let's see what that says. They had a lot of typos in that. So, what are transitional age youth? TAY. Transitional age youth, typically spanning 15 to 26, are people navigating the transition from adolescence into adulthood. What the hell?
What the heck is telomeres?
Telomeres. Telomeres. Oh, hold on. Those are
protect their telomeres.
Telomeres are the things that determine how long you live.
So apparently, you need an anti-racist healing in nature to protect the telomeres of the transitional age.
Yeah, it was hard. It was Weinstein, which was the one that discovered that the lab rats had shorter telomeres than rats in the wild, and that all of the research was basically not falsified, but not what's what I'm looking for.
It was back when James Lindsay was doing useful work, rather than going around trying to gatekeep the right to support Warhorn.
Telomeres are the protective caps on.
That's when you get all these fake studies. They're fake studies. So but they sue, and the federal judge enjoins them. Says you, Secretary Kennedy, shall issue those checks for close to $1 billion. So it's up before the so-called shadow docket at the Supreme Court. The Trump administration should win this easy. This is the judge who admitted the Supreme Court had, on almost exactly the same circumstances, already said that we covered the cases, that you can't do this. That one, you can't force the president or the government to write you a check. And second, these claims have to go to the Court of Federal Claims. They can't go to federal court. And what do you think the district court judge did? He cited the dissents. He decided Justice Jackson. Folks, if you're citing Justice Jackson, you probably already lost your marbles. And so this is up before the so-called shadow docket. These are the emergency injunctions that go up to the Supreme Court that aren't through the regular docket process. And they've said, look, you've already overturned this multiple times. This is another federal judge just refusing to enforce your orders. Please give us an administrative stay so we don't have to pay this nonsense to these crazy people, because statutorily it's explicitly given to Kennedy. It's within his discretion whether to give it to him anyway.
Not just that, mutatis mutandis, this is just the exact same reasoning that's going to apply to the orders that have been reversed enjoining Trump to continue funding staff and hold on, is the judge a Reagan appointee?
I don't know. It was a district court of Massachusetts, so they might have been a Reagan appointee. And then the First Circuit, which is a joke, refused to stay the order. I mean, even though it was again, this was explicit. This is the lower courts just refusing to obey the Supreme Court of the United States.
Yeah, I think it looks like it's Justice William Young. It's Justice William G. Young, who seems to be a Reagan appointee, which makes him older than Methuselah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should have mandatory retirement age for some of these judges, to be honest. Now, and it gives you the idea how bad it is. Trump is having to sue a whole federal district court.
Okay, we're doing that one now?
Yeah.
Okay, Robert, go with it, please. And I'm going to just ask.
So this is that Maryland federal court that, remember, issued a standing order. Now, normally your standing orders are like, here's how you file the paperwork in court. Here's my standing order for when a deadline to submit the joint statement for the conference for the pretrial stuff like that, right? That's your standing orders. Standing order, male lawyers shall wear a tie and suit in court. That kind of jazz. Internal procedure, nothing substantive. Well, Maryland issued a standing order which had an automatic, unsolicited injunction of an indefinite duration for anybody who filed a habeas petition anywhere in the world to not be deported under the Alien Enemies Act or any other act. So particularly for alien enemies, people designated as alien enemies by the White House. So this is unheard of, unprecedented. You talk about a universal injunction. This is how they got around universal injunctions. They just said, as soon as you file a habeas, bam, you have an automatic injunction. So the Trump administration sued the whole courthouse, sued the court. And so the courts were like, you can't sue us. We're federal judges. We have sovereign immunity. We have qualified immunity. We have judicial immunity. All the immunities. If you wonder why judges love immunity. And as they pointed out, sovereign immunity doesn't apply when the United States is the plaintiff. And number two, There's no judicial immunity from injunctive relief, and this merely seeks injunctive relief. And third, immunity never applies anyway when what you're doing is not within your judicial power to do in the first place. And so it might be really good law on the judicial immunity, but this is how far the Trump administration has to go just to try to enforce immigration law in this country. They're literally having to sue federal judges.
Yeah, I was blanking out for a second because I was thinking of Boasberg's decision getting overturned on appeal, where Boasberg was trying to hold the administration in contempt for not following his list of demands as relates to how to deal with these illegal criminal aliens. Boasberg's decision to try to hold the administration in contempt was overturned, but overturned 2-1.
Yes, correct. And which was good, though. They said, look, so this was that lunatic Boasberg who should have already been impeached, who had issued all kinds of crazy rulings in the immigration context, now is trying to hold the Trump administration in contempt for orders he never had jurisdiction to issue in the first place, according to the Supreme Court of the United States. And so the D.C. Circuit had to step in and immediately stop his rogue proceedings. Still with the liberal judges wanting it to go forward, to give you an idea how nuts they are. And this is after Boasberg got caught by Margot Cleveland at a judicial conference conspiring against the president of the United States on record.
I love it. A pair of Trump appointees ordered Boasberg's issue, overturned it, but the liberal judge dissented and said no. And Boasberg's got more family ties to Trump persecution as well. I'm going to try to refresh my memory on what those were. You get mistaken between Boasberg, nipple judge Engeron, Kaplan out of New York, all judges with vendetta. Oh, and Juan Marchal, who had a family relation.
Of course, the Democrats aren't satisfied with all of this. They are demanding the right. They are interpreting the law, which was meant to protect some degree of oversight access for funding purposes, to mean that any Democratic member of Congress can go to an ICE facility anytime they want and have immediate full access to the whole facility without any limitation or restraint at all.
Now, okay, not to play devil's advocate, at some point, who's going to police the police? I would imagine it would be congressional oversight, and you'd have to, I don't know, go through congressional subpoenas to verify that things are being administered properly.
And instead, they're bringing suit over it because they know the House won't authorize it. The question becomes enforcement. So first of all the law does not require them to give them access. The law says no federal funds will be used to deny legitimate oversight access request. So their argument is one of funding that does not give them a right to bring suit. Under laws that they themselves have helped establish over time, court precedent is that unless it explicitly gives you a right to sue, you have no right to sue. So members of Congress should not be going to the judicial branch to enforce something that they don't have the right to enforce that isn't a right for them in the first place. All it is a limitation on money. So their argument is that the money got misspent. Their argument is not that they have a right to access the facilities in the first place. The second aspect is all they're objecting to is the 7-day requirement that the facilities require. And remember, these are the same Democratic members of Congress and the same judges who would not allow people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Matt Gaetz, to visit Americans being held in solitary confinement in horrible conditions in the D.C. jails over J6. But somehow you have a greater right to involving aliens who have no right to be here anyway. So we'll see. They filed the suit, I think, in D.C., so a D.C. court will give them whatever they want because that's the nature of D.C. in all likelihood. What they should have done is Speaker Johnson, who, in his defense, he was real busy visiting his district this week. It happens to be in Jerusalem. You might not know it was Jerusalem in Israel, but that's where it was. He let this crap stay in the bill. This part of the bill has only existed since 2019. The idea that Congress have a right to just go into any jail or facility anytime they want, for any reason they want, without notice is nonsense. It doesn't apply in any other context outside of this. And it was the Democratic Congress who put it in 2019, and then Speaker Johnson who left it in this time. It's mucking up the criminal prosecution up in New Jersey. They should have just taken it out. But it still doesn't give them a judicially enforceable right. Nothing in the law said that. Nothing in the law was meant to create that. None of our precedent supports that. Doesn't mean a liberal judge won't give it to him.
Okay, this is, I don't know if it's a good segue. It's going to be a hard segue because it's going to have to do with oversight in a sense. You need to explain to me and the world what the ever-loving hell is going on in Texas, with Trump's is it the executive order about the census to no longer include counting of illegal aliens for the purposes of, I don't know if it was only for congressional seats. Starting in Texas, the big news of the week was that there was going to be a vote on redistricting and also funding for the victims of the Texas flooding, as far as I understood it. And the accusation is that this was a special session called to determine or allocate funds for relief for victims of the Texas flood. And Texas Republicans added to the docket a vote on redistricting so that they would have to vote on one and the other because they paired them together. And Democrats say exploitively, because it was supposed to be about only helping the victims of the Texas flood, Republicans seized the opportunity to play politics. Instead of going, first of all, is that a fair description? Because I try to steelman the argument, but is that a fair description of what the Democrats' objection to what the Republicans did is?
Really, their objection is that the House districts that got drawn in 2020 now favor Democrats more than it should and would have had they known there would be a massive Mexican-American working class shift to the Republican Party brand. And so Democrats believe only they should get to do partisan redistricting. Republicans, that's just outrageous. That's gerrymandering. When they're doing it, it's just representing the voters. So there's people that have done detailed studies, including independent people that don't have a partisan approach. And everybody agrees that if we had completely nonpartisan congressional district apportionment and drawing, that Republicans would have far more seats. If you excluded illegal aliens, Republicans would have even about another 20 plus seats.
Can I actually stop you just for 1 second? Redistricting good, gerrymandering bad. That's the legal distinction?
Right. That's exactly how it works for Democratic lingo and rhetoric. We probably should do like a vocabulary guide, the Orwellian Democratic Party explanation of what words really mean by Humpty Dumpty. We could have Humpty Dumpty be the author of it, as he says, a word is what I say it means. In the Wonderland books. So that's one aspect, is that if we had honest redistricting, Republicans have mostly unilaterally disarmed and allowed Democrats to draw districts in a very aggressive way, in ways that hurt them in a range of states: New York, North Carolina, Illinois, California. You can, all throughout the Northeast. The Massachusetts governor came out and denounced it. Massachusetts redistricting apportionment is so bad. Their gerrymandering is so bad. They haven't elected a Republican to the House in more than 30 years. So, it's a crock that she's up there saying, well, what we redistrict? What can you do, darling? You've already gerrymandered it to hell. So that was one issue. Second issue is Assistant Attorney General, who is doing very good work at the Justice Department, Harmeet Dillon, pointed out various cases they are pursuing. Their official policy required the state of Texas to redistrict because they had previously redistricted on racial lines to promote the Democratic theory of special districts based on racial apportionment. Basically, you had to make sure a certain number of Hispanics were Mexican Americans, in this case, were elected to Congress from Texas. That has always been unconstitutional, but the courts have refused to do anything about it. Harmeet Dillon now is. Court decisions have now second-guessed that repeatedly, including out of the Fifth Circuit governing the state of Texas. So Texas likely needed to redistrict anyway. They called a special session to get it done. And what it is, one of the latest scams and schemes of Democrats is to use the quorum requirement to create a de facto minority veto.
Okay, but hold on. Before we get to the quorum argument, I just want to make sure I understand why they're complaining about it. What would have been the method of redistricting or revisiting the redistricting without pairing it with the funding, the vote on the funding for relief for the victims of the Texas flood?
For Texas, so Texas called a special session, which had a bunch of items, one of which was redistricting.
Okay, so the special session was not exclusive to funding for the victims of the flooding.
It had multiple items. It was whatever they had not been able to raise in the prior session.
Sons of bitches, Robert. Okay, fine. Because I thought it was, my understanding, at least the way they were describing it, it was a special session only to discuss the funding relief for the Texas flood, and these bastards joined another issue to it. Okay, a special session lasts how long?
So it goes until August 20th. And so the governor can convene it. And there are a long litany of issues, of which one they decided to add. For example, the Democrats had no problem with the special session. Then the Governor Abbott added redistricting because of the rate. I don't think he had the political guts to just do it for political reasons. He did it because of the Fifth Circuit decision that was saying, and the Supreme Court now saying they were going to revisit racial redistricting writ large, and felt obligated. And Harvey Dillon came out and said Texas needs to redistrict because right now its districts are unconstitutional because they're racially motivated and racially discriminatory. So now what it is it's the biggest state where the most seats could shift. California and New York are saying and Illinois are saying they're going to redistrict. They've already hammered their districts, so it's very tough for them to squeeze out any more Democratic districts. And then they've superimposed their own procedural barriers for Republicans to do it that now hinder their ability. So that's the political background. Texas, they think as many as 5 seats could be shifted to the Republican Party if they redistrict. And then they, with the help apparently of Beto O'Rourke, with the help apparently of wealthy out-of-state donors, including one and only George Soros, according to published reports, they went on a private plane to escape the state of Texas and go to Illinois, a bunch of Democrats.
It was definitely private. I noticed that. You don't get off on the tarmac when you fly coach. But this is Venice AI. It's not the sponsor for tonight's show, but I've been using it instead of Chat GPT. This is the list of stuff that was allegedly on the special session agenda: the flood warning, redistricting, THC regulation, abortion pills, bathroom bill. I don't know that this is accurate, and I hope I asked it the right question. But I was okay. Well,
right. There was like 21 or more items.
That's wild. I mean, that's where I didn't even know to ask that question because I thought it was strictly one issue, and then they unfairly lumped in the redistricting. Holy hell! All right. So then they're scoundrels. It's just like even though I didn't know, I'm not cynical enough. They're scoundrels. They literally abscond and go to what I know is the king of all gerrymandering, Chicago, Illinois, and
that lard ass Pritzker. Whose family has deep-seated mob ties, if you dig in, going way back. Was eager. He thinks he's the next president, by the way. He's going to run for president 2028. He makes Chris Christie look like a beacon of public health. That's who Pritzker is. So that Congressman Randy Fine, who makes Gerald Nadler look like a beacon of public health. So what they're really trying to do is, so you have a rule of quorum. And quorum is just to make sure that when the legislature votes on something, they were actually present to vote on it. That's all that means. It's a procedural mechanism to secure the presence of the legislature. They are interpreting it because what they did is they fled. By fleeing, there's no quorum. Because there's no quorum, they can't vote on anything. And they plan on not coming back. They won't report on when they're going to come back.
But hold on, but I mean, just explain this to a Canadian schnook. How is this literally not dereliction of duty? Like, this is their job. The quorum could happen if there's, I don't know, a delay in traffic, and so they can't vote until quorum gets there. This is deliberate obstruction of an official government proceeding. Why would they not be able to be charged with that?
That is, in fact, what is going forward. So and what has happened is the governor has filed a emergency petition for a writ of quo warranto, WARRANTO. And it's basically literally a warrant, if you will, to take a particular action when someone in office usually it's for when someone's pretending to be in office. So there have been election contests going back centuries that have been adjudicated before we had election contest laws in the form of, quote, petition of quo warranto. You're saying a pretender has the king's throne, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so that's the point the governor made. The governor made is the constitutional requirement when you get elected to the legislature is that you shall meet. It's not you can meet. It's not if you want to meet. It's not if you want to get there. It's you shall convene. And he has ordered the special session, so that meant constitutionally their obligation under their oath of office is they shall convene. And his point is if you are neglecting that, failing to do so, you are forfeiting your office. And the remedy under Texas law is to file it with the Supreme Court, and they can issue a petition granting it, saying this person has now forfeited their office. And then in the interim, Governor Abbott could replace them. And so the other point I think they made, which was excellent in the petition that was brought before the Texas Supreme Court, was if the rule is any other way, then you have converted a quorum into a right of minority veto.
It's a veto. I mean, an effective veto.
forever. And I mean, and you can permanently veto any legislation. You can completely shut down the entire Texas government by just not showing up, because then they can't authorize any expenditure of any funds or any taxes or define any set of civil or criminal law liability at all. And they're like, the quorum requirement was a procedural one. It was never intended to confer veto power. And you contrast that with the Texas Constitution compelling a person to be present, that they shall convene as part of their oath of office. They have, and the petition, quorum petitions can be granted for a forfeiting or neglecting office. And clearly, this is not only neglecting office, this is forfeiting office. They have been ordered to convene. They're refusing to convene. And if it's done any other way, as you note, it creates a de facto minority veto. Whatever number of people that can make up quorum are necessary for a quorum can just constantly flee and refuse to appear unless you give them what they want, which is a minority veto, which no quorum procedure has ever been legally held to provide for.
Now, it's been done, I think, at least 3 or 4 times. I don't know if it's specifically in Texas, but it's been done.
Wisconsin, done, other states have done it. I think it would be a great way to shut this down, because this is a misuse and abuse of quorum procedures that are intended to make sure the legislature actually meets and does its job in order to confer a minority veto power that would completely bankrupt the ability of government to function at all. And it's like a filibuster on steroids.
No, well, it's first of all, it's so much worse than I thought, because I thought maybe there was some meat to the argument that the Republicans sort of ungraciously or opportunistically attached it to a bill that was only to help the kids, or a session that was only to help the victims. That's bad. The issue that they can't even stay in the state because they could otherwise be served in the state, so they have to go out of state so that Texas cannot lawfully.
But they needed a private plane. They were scared if they went to the public airport, they'd be arrested at the airport and brought to the legislature. Not arrested for criminal purposes, simply just brought physically to the Texas legislature.
What a bunch of sons of bitches, Robert. Sorry. And this is James Tallarico, who was just on Rogan, who Rogan said should run for president. I made the joke at the time. Maybe he was just trying to put him on blast and expose him for what he was. He's coming out here and saying, we're doing this for the people, derelicting on our duty to actually go and vote because we know we're going to lose on the redistricting, and we like the way it's set up now.
The way around, if Republicans were doing this, you would see on the nightly news the people who are not receiving aid from the floods, right? I mean, because that's who they're directly harming, because they can't allocate any funds for the victims of the floods. But you see how the media plays this when the shoe is on the other foot.
Robert, let me read the chats from ComicTube before they get too far behind. Trumpinator47 says, we don't need to arrest him, just turn his place into dust. I think that was for Maduro. I don't think that would be diplomatically acceptable either. There was one Warsaw, $5 Rumble rant with no comment. Then there was Nathan Danner, 4030. What about Atlanta CDC shooter? Is this getting memory hold in real time? I haven't been following that.
Well, they're trying to use it to say, see, Kennedy's rhetoric is because they're claiming that the shooter was there because he was a victim of an mRNA injury. So the reason why, I'm not going to highlight that story is because the media wants that story to be highlighted in order to say, see, you shouldn't be critical of mRNA or you're going to have random shooters show up and shoot people.
Let me read a bunch over in Rumble. Kimmy Hunt, you can't see it, but I'm going to bring it up afterwards. I'm done with my treatments. She says, now I wait 3 months to take a PET scan to know for sure if the tumor is not visible or palpable. I couldn't have done it without your prayers and support. And then I'll bring up the Give Send Go in a second. Trucking Empire says, if you need enclosed auto transport for your classics or exotic cars, Rastaman Transport is here to help. We offer transport from California, Arizona to the Southeast and back. For more information, call 916-519-3588. I don't know who this is. Everybody exercise caution when getting in any business on the internet. How likely is it that Disney offered Gina more than she could have gotten at trial in an effort to avoid discovery, force a settlement? You know, good segue. We'll get into that right now. Maybe that was from Randy Edward. Leverett Sr. says, maybe the eggheads of the DOJ think they have to offer a bounty on Maduro to bolster their claim that TDA is his invading force. That was actually what I thought, and I should have said it then, is that if you want to talk about the predatory incursion, maybe you need this for the optics of it. Still, it goes with the same precautions that Barnes and I mentioned earlier, plugging the potential hole. Still a bad international law precedent, in my opinion. And then we've got King of Biltong. Increase your protein intake by adding some tasty, high-protein meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Get some at BiltongUSA.com. Use code BARNES for 10% off. And I just want to bring up Kimmy Hunt's Give, Send, Go, because she was going through chemo, trying to get raise funds to get to 20,000 to help her. If you can, I know Kimmy and I know Biltong, but I don't know the other Rumble rant that I read. So err on the side of caution, everybody, or at least be cautious. Okay.
Then we got the big census question related to all of this.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So now we're getting to this. I had a bit of a back and forth with somebody on Twitter. I knew or believed I knew that the Supreme Court has never adjudicated on whether or not the census can include illegal aliens for the purposes of attributing or determining congressional seats. I actually didn't know that it could until, say within the last 5 years when it was the argument for why the Democrats would have left the borders open. They don't vote federally, but you count them for congressional seats. And so California, other states get more congressional seats by counting illegal aliens. When did that become a thing? Like, count census so you know how many people are in the country, legal or illegal, I can understand. I don't know, just from a preparation point of view, you want to know if you have 10 million illegal aliens in the country. But from apportionment of congressional seats, how in the hell did that ever happen in the first place?
Well, really, we're at different numbers and volumes. So this kind of was hotly debated in the 20s, and they passed the Census Act of 1929, which is still the governing law. What the Constitution requires is that it be done a census for the purposes of apportionment. You can do a census however many times you want. A census for purposes of apportionment shall happen within 10 years, every 10 years. Note it says within. It doesn't say only in 10 years. So the first of all, as to whether or not you can do a census for apportionment more times than once. There's nothing in the Constitution that prohibits that. There's no legal precedent that prohibits it. So that leads to the next big question. And it's to your point, in the New York versus Trump in 2019, Supreme Court said absolutely you can ask whether somebody is a citizen or not as part of the census questions. It did not happen for a range of reasons. Including the incompetent person, in my view, that was at Secretary of Commerce at the time, and other issues that were taking place. But the other case that you're talking about, could they exclude illegal aliens from the definition of persons within the meaning of the enumeration clause, the apportionment clause? Then the nature that question was not answered because by the time the Supreme Court got around to it, it was after the 2020 election, and they said no standing because nobody has any idea what the Biden administration is going to do and whether they're going to enforce it or not. So that question is, lower courts have made up crazy doctrines to say you must include illegals in this, and we'll get into why that doctrine never made any sense by these lower lefty courts, but the Supreme Court never has. So the provision is an actual enumeration of persons is for the purposes of apportioning two things: House of Representatives and electors. Now, by the way, apportionment used to be and still is constitutionally, but practically no longer used for this purpose. The other aspect of this was for taxation purposes, for direct taxation. We used to use a mechanism whereby the states would raise taxes and submit it to the federal government. And we said any direct tax has to be apportioned equally amongst the states. This is where the famous 3/5 clause came from, talking about slaves without defining them and constitutionally as slaves. Very important point that Lysander Spooner made in his unconstitutionality of slavery argument in 1840 with Frederick Douglass that we read at vivabarneslaw.locals.com as part of our book reading club. But so it used to have a critical tax component to all of this that now has been effectively muted because it's utterly impractical to do direct taxes. The only reason why income taxes exist is because of the 16th Amendment that says you don't have to consider the apportionment rule for the purposes of any tax. They called it income tax. Now, the Supreme Court has put further limitations on what that word means income-wise. Still a ongoing debate in the legal circles. So persons are, quote, the people of the several states. And so to read the clauses, first clause, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years. In other words, they were anticipating indentured servitude, by the way, there, not chattel slaves, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. shall be made within every subsequent 10 years, term of 10 years, in such manner as Congress shall by law direct. The number of representatives, by the way, shall not exceed one for every 30,000. We've long since forsaken enforcement of that constitutional provision due to the same compromise in the 1920s that said we're just going to permanently keep it at 435 representatives. The 14th Amendment then modified this after the Civil War. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers. So the same logic. Notice the importance of respective numbers. Counting, this is what the liberal courts relied on, counting the whole number of persons in each state. Here's the problem they're doing. They're pretending that radically redefined it. The whole number was simply meant to take away the 3/5 clause. That's all that's there for. It was not meant to redefine what persons meant within the constitutional context. The including Indians not taxed. Denied to any of the, and if any right to vote was denied to any of them, this gives you an idea of where they were, what persons they were thinking about. There should be no right to vote denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state. Later on, the later Constitution would add women to that. Being, I don't know whether that was such a good idea to say. Being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, the same 21-year provision was later changed because of the Vietnam War to 18, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced to the proportion which the number of such male citizens as being denied. So what they said is, if you deny people the right to vote, we're going to deny you congressional seats. We're going to deny you electors. So then you have the Census Act, where Congress delegated to the Secretary of Commerce the task of conducting the census in such form and content as that secretary determines. There are some people out there saying, well, it references this. They're saying that is more limited and that can only be every 10 years, that's the only thing congressional funding is for. So President Trump has to get congressional authorization for this. I recommend he get congressional authorization for it, but I don't think it's required because I don't interpret the statute in the way they're trying to do so. The census is often asked about whether or not you're present here legally or illegally. Now, these clauses have been interpreted in 4 cases. The 2 cases we discussed, New York versus the Commerce Department, New York versus Trump. The other 2 is Franklin and Elkins. In Elkins, the alien students were being denied. This would be like if your kid was trying to enroll in the state of Florida. Were being denied in-state tuition on the grounds that they could not claim domicile because they were not yet citizens of the state.
Which is stupid, because you could be an illegal alien and still be domiciled somewhere. I mean, I guess the only question is whether or not indicating that you're illegal is going to be a legal exposure to self-incrimination or something, so they can't ask that question. But you can be a resident and still you can be an illegal alien and still be a lawful resident.
Oh, yes, and they were lawful residents. The question is whether they were domiciled for the purposes of in-state tuition because they could not have an indefinite commitment to permanent residency due to the time limitation on their current visa. That was the debate there. In that context, they made clear that not all persons are people constitutionally. And by the way, where has the left made this argument? Where has the left said the people doesn't mean everybody?
I want to say Second Amendment.
Bingo. So the left has constantly argued that people doesn't mean everybody. It only means the people as part of the political community. But when it comes to the census, they're like, oh, no. We actually mean it means every person that just happens to be there transiently. The other case, which was, I think, Edwards, which was that you have to have, quote, more than a mere physical presence to count as a person that should be apportioned for these purposes. Because this was about overseas federal employees. And what they did is they started apportioning them to different states. And the question was, could they apportion them to the states in the way they were doing so? And they're like, okay, whether you apportion them depends on, is it their usual residence? Do they have more than mere physical presence? Do they have an enduring tie to the place? In other words, a lot like the domicile argument, a lot like the people, that the definition of numbered persons historically, constitutionally, both within the language of the Constitution itself, how it was construed at the time of and all the people trying to reinterpret this they argue the 1929 debate about the Census Act. That's not what matters constitutionally. What matters is at the time they passed the 14th Amendment and at the time they passed the apportionment clause. And both of those provisions reinforce that this is why tourists do not count. This is why people who are physically not even located in the state do count.
Well,
like soldiers that are overseas.
I was going to presume also that invading soldiers would not count either.
Exactly. That goes all the way back to the birthright citizenship debate.
Yep.
And why the Indians not taxed is excluded from this whole provision. So the point is, it's supposed to be you get the people that are apportioned for the purposes of that political community. It's not just physical presence. It's not just, it has to be an enduring legal tie. By definition, illegal aliens don't fit that. Otherwise, you could quite literally, like, let's say you had a group of Democrats or Republicans. Let's say they just kept moving from state to state to state. Well, the census is doing it there next month. Let's all go there. Then let's go. You know what I mean? You could you could inflate. You could just abuse this like wildfire. That's why a person can only have one legal residence, not multiple ones in the United States. That's why legal residence is about state of mind reflected in longstanding conduct, not reflected in temporary physical presence. And it has to mean something tied to the purpose and point of apportionment, which is what? For representation, for what? The House of Representatives in the election to the presidency of the United States. That should never have included illegal aliens. Mm-hmm. So I think President Trump's position is correct constitutionally. Will you never know with Roberts and Barrett up there on the Supreme Court, whether they'll go with the commies on the court, the left on the court, and refuse to recognize and respect this. But I think that he is constitutionally on the right path, and what's going to be relitigated again. Because if you removed illegals from the, not only that, people forget the census screwed up. The census put too many, accidentally screwed up during COVID. Well, we gave the liberal states more seats than they deserved, and we screwed the conservative states like Alabama. Golly gee, how did that? Just an accident, just a chance, right? It's like when the U.S. bombs foreign, media. It's like, golly gee, we hit Al Jazeera again. Whoops, sorry about that. So there's those issues independent of all this. There's the racial redistricting and issues of independence. There's there's matching what the Democrats do in terms of partisan redistricting. But the biggest one is just getting rid of these illegals that never belonged in the census to begin with for apportionment purposes. And so I think he's constitutionally correct. We'll see what the courts ultimately say.
It's got to, is it not going to be the same risk in terms of no standing by the time this gets to the Supreme Court for a ruling?
No, because I think it will get there before 2028.
Is it not
late to do this last time? Last time he only did it like 2 years in. And now he's doing it right away, which is right. And, who inspired it? Marjorie Taylor Greene, by proposing congressional legislation on this precise topic, encouraging President Trump to take action. Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot more MAGA than her so-called critics. Definitely Mark Levin, as Steve Bannon likes to call him, Tel Aviv Levin. That he represents the Tel Aviv portion of the district. So now you're going to see this likely reach the court as soon as maybe next year. It might get expedited because of the concerns. And so now it might not all happen before 2026 midterms, but I could definitely see it happening before the 2028 presidential election because he's taken action much quicker. There's now already been extensive briefing on this. Supreme Court's already aware of the topic. So you might see it expedited to the Supreme Court. It would not surprise me to see the Supreme Court rule on this next year.
Robert, I got to bring up Mark Levin's post from Saturday morning. I mean, I thought the guy's account got hacked where he thanked Laura Loomer for exposing the kook Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then these are the replies to his tweet. Only thing that matters is whether you think someone grovels at the feet of Israel, right? He says, why do you hate America, pig? Ironically enough, if you call Mark Levin a pig, I'm sure he would claim some form of anti-Semitism. You're a moron. Morin, get lost. Bigoted putz. You're a bigot. Your mama leashed. Prison, pig, prick, Islamist. Is he crazy?
Yeah, I think so. Because he's definitely. I mean, they're losing their mind. Bibi Netanyahu is pretending that all the criticism in the United States over the extreme actions that they're now recommending, taking over Gaza, turning it over to somebody that's not Palestinian, but yeah, I can tell you who they are planning on. They're planning on the United States of America. That they're going to expel them from Palestine. They're not saying where they're going to expel. Where they're going to expel them from?
No, where are they going to go? They expect the Arab countries to take them in. Morin, like Morin,
to do it. That's what they want to do.
Morin in Quebec is a very common last name, actually. Robert, we're not going to not only not neglect the locals community. We're going to get to some priority questions right here. I don't understand this, says Shailina. What is Trump doing, and how good is it or bad? What is this? 50%? Oh, this is the tariffs.
This is just getting that for some tariff payments, there are people that want access to certain chips from China. So they are offering to pay Trump directly for access to those rather than require him to get it from China.
Okay. We got Andy Olson says, ear hair happens. Remember to trim eyebrows too. No, I don't have that problem because I pulled my eyebrows out. Mine started getting bushy a few years ago, and I'm only a couple of years older than you. Merchant Marine says, Viva Barnes. Won't be able to attend this weekend. My tickets are a donation, or maybe you can add to the auction.
Oh, cool. That's very nice.
Let me see. Yeah, let me see. I'll screen grab this and we'll see what we can do in terms of maybe somebody wants to pick them up. Howard the Duke. Have you seen... Has there been any meaningful legislative effort to control the geographic contours of congressional districts?
That's a racial district. When you see a district like that in the middle of Illinois, that's almost always a racial district where they're trying to pack and stack enough votes to get. Sometimes it's a partisan district, but often it's to get enough to have it be a black majority or Hispanic majority or minority majority, something like that. Often. Not always, but you see how ridiculous those districts are.
Well, I mean, this is why, I don't even understand how it happens. Like, maybe there's a history that I'm just. Is that water? That's not water.
Oh yeah, they go through and they aggregate the precincts to get the outcome they want.
Andy Olson says the smoke from the Canadian fires has been so bad in Minnesota. I've been saying Trump should tariff the smoke. Maybe the fines. Oh no, they're incapable of doing proper forest management in Canada. It's too far away, and it's just now they got to keep people out and only the arsonists in. Chrissy79 will be in your great country this week, heading to Ohio on Thursday from Dublin. My grandson is competing in a teenage CrossFit Games next week. Enjoy your meetup, folks. Will do, absolutely. How about mRNA in food? Yeah, that's his doc. No,
they're trying to do that. For the time being, when Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, was talking about doing it for chickens, Robert Kennedy stepped in and got that stopped. So for now, it's being. But yes, there's a huge effort afoot to inject us with vaccines through food by injecting it into the animals, and they don't fully know how transferable it is or isn't.
Just came back from Italy. So great to watch you guys at 6 rather than midnight. Florence is a must-go city. If you go, people, be careful. There are certain areas where if you're in a non-stickered car and you go into this area that's only for locals or residents.
They have a huge maybe it's gone down, but I mean, I love Florence. But over the last time I was there, which was 7 years ago, the immigration problem was really
that's a big problem. I mean, we were there and it was that was a problem more in France, but that was 2015 when we went, Robert. I got so many tickets because I was doing the circle around a train station to pick up a friend. Every time I went around, I got another ticket. They start sending them to me in Canada. And I write a long letter like, I'm very sorry, I'll pay one, but I'm not paying for every loop I went around. I don't know if I can go back to Italy.
You got to, if they're in Florence, you got to go to the cathedral, the most beautiful building I've ever seen in the history ever.
Slim Shaken says, "Can I get Kyle Seraphin on FB?" I don't think Kyle likes me. We've had our run-ins on Twitter.
Kyle's got this obsession, in my opinion, with he gave his explanation on Owen Schroyer about why he's so anti James O'Keefe. I think he's wrong. I think he has absolutely legitimate concerns about what's happening at the FBI. I think he's a little over the top personality wise, and I strongly disagreed with him on the James O'Keefe.
Yeah, that's what I said. By the way, James O'Keefe, the podcast is coming out next week, so stay tuned. We do briefly talk about Kyle Seraphin and that, and not about it. He does good things, and then he was wrong in his treatment of O'Keefe.
I agree.
Schnookum says telomeres are the ends of the chromosomes that the degradation lets you age. Ali Michael says, can peace be negotiated with Zelensky in power? Thank you for the show. I sent the question earlier, but hit the send button too soon. That's a good segue. We'll pause here for the reading the chips. Sure. Robert, so, okay. I'm trying to follow what's going on in Russia. There's apparently, I don't know who's meeting with whom right now. I just know from what I've read that Zelensky is saying, yeah, they'll be, we're ready to agree to a peace. If Russia relinquishes every piece of land that they've acquired control over in the last 2 or 3 years, however long this has been going on, I read another report that was basically saying Putin's side is warning Trump that there are agitators or bad faith actors within whatever administration that are actively trying to sabotage this. In the media, they're going to try to sabotage it, make Trump look stupid. What is going on right now? Who's meeting with whom? Because I know they said there can be no meeting without Zelensky. Zelensky's there, from what I understand, but he's being a petulant.
He's being excluded. He's not been invited.
Okay, so but then where is he issuing his demands that there will not be any peace with
just from his social media account and from yipping with the Europeans. So the President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, went to Moscow this past week and took the Putin exit ramp, which he's been offering for 6 months to President Trump. He has not to his credit, taken back that exit ramp, which the exit ramp is a simple one. The Russian regions of Ukraine that are historically Russian, ancestrally Russian, currently occupied by ethnic Russians who speak Russian, who have already voted to join Russia, that are currently militarily occupied by Russia, will be recognized as Russia. And then second, Ukraine just is never going to be part of NATO. That's literally it. That's the exit ramp requirements. He would like additional things, the no EU presence, no big military of Ukraine, take back the sanctions. Let's reinstate the START treaty to have a meaningful arms control, especially as drones and AI becomes an increasing global security threat for the world. There's other things that are on the agenda. The Witkoff, President Trump, and the Russian economic folks would really love to further develop joint exploration in the Arctic Circle for the various rare earths that Russia has, which is a critical problem because China currently has a monopoly over its production and refinement. There's oil and petroleum. There's other resources that may be up there. So it would make sense, is what Trump said 10 years ago, was wouldn't we be better off, meaning America, if we got along with Putin? He was absolutely right. He's still absolutely right. The Russiagate was it not only meant to smear him, justify spying on him, rationalize an impeachment of him, but it was meant to stage a policy coup to prevent him from getting a détente with Russia that would have prevented the Ukraine war from ever happening in the first place. And President Trump has now taken Putin's exit ramp and said that has announced a summit in Alaska on Friday, this coming Friday. The goal is it's already being leaked out. J.D. Vance was saying, look, the American people are done paying for Europe's wars. Europe wants to do something. Europe can do it. It will no longer do so on the dime of the American people. Europe is in no position to fund Ukraine's wars. They want Daddy America to do it for them because of their obsessive Russophobia. Russophobia makes no sense. The Russian people, we interviewed Russians with attitude earlier this week. I highly recommend the interview. As somebody said, aren't you guys commies? I'm like, no, we are good Orthodox Christian boys.
It's funny, it's from my own personal experience. So I've never been to Russia. I've known a few Russians. I don't understand why anyone would think that Russia would have more in common with North Korea and China than with the West. Where it's like when Russians leave Russia and emigrate elsewhere, they don't go to North Korea or China. They go to America. There's a big population here, religiously, spiritually, of principles, culturally. I don't understand it. I appreciate it comes from the Cold War, but I don't appreciate how it's lingered and how effectively
it's been a massive effort of the George Soros crowd to propagandize the American people into completely misunderstanding the Russian population and the Russian power structure, because it's the most natural alliance and allegiance in the world. The number one project of George Soros has been to demonize and destroy Russia, because he understands that a Russia-U.S. alliance would be the most powerful political alliance arguably in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. And it's one that's natural because it's culturally aligned, socially aligned, politically aligned. They're religiously, how do you describe the ordinary Russian? Basically like your ordinary American. Socially, and culturally conservative, economically populist, politically populist. That's who they are. And Trump, that's what Trump recognized to his great credit in 2015. That's why part of the big reason Russiagate ever existed was to prevent him from uniting the U.S. and Russia against the globalists who depend on EU and China. And so Trump is like, he's done with it. He tried all the nonsense that Lady Lindsey Graham was pushing, crazy sanctions that could endanger his economic prosperity, that could endanger the declining price of energy in the United States, that could endanger his tariff policy in the courts, and was also endangering peace and security around the world, that was removing a critical ally in dealing with China, removing a critical ally in dealing with Iran, or removing a critical ally in dealing with Israel. So it made no sense. And so President Trump was finally done with it. He was done with the nonsense, done with the insanity, and said, let's have meaningful peace. Let's restore what I was on pace for 10 years ago. that got derailed by these intermittent coups by the corrupt rogue deep state. And so I think that, and so as Alex Jones has been warning, as others have been, as people connected to Putin have been warning, as people connected to Trump have been warning, you will see over the next week a tremendous effort to do everything possible to blow this up. You may see false flags, you may see staged terror events, you may see all kinds of propaganda campaigns. You will see a huge effort to prevent President Trump from pulling this off. But it would be a coup of coups geopolitically. Not only would he absolutely deserve the Nobel Peace Prize because he resolved a war that nobody in Europe wanted resolved at all, but he could do so in a way that could create a détente with Russia that could secure arms control, so could secure energy supplies, could secure rare earth supplies, that could align us to get peace in Iran, peace in the Middle East, could enable us to have a little more leverage in dealing with China. It could be a win-win-win of extraordinary proportion. It would make Nixon Goes to China child's play and amateur hour by comparison, if President Trump can pull it off. But all the deep state opponents, all the EU opponents, their EU minions, and little Zelensky will be doing everything possible to blow it up. Gallup polled Ukraine this past week. Overwhelmingly, the Ukrainian people want this deal. Overwhelmingly, the Ukrainian people want the war to end. Overwhelmingly, they want Zelensky out of office. Zelensky is worried because his acting gig has now reached its termination end, and his money laundering solicitation might have finally, the launderer might be turned off by President Trump. That's why he's going ballistic, because he doesn't care about the Ukrainian people. He has betrayed and lied to them repeatedly to get elected. He promised them peace. He delivered them the worst war in their history as an independent country. So let's hope President Trump can pull it off. If he does, it will be one of not only delivering to his base, but from a geopolitical perspective, one of the greatest achievements in American foreign policy history, period.
When does the administration go after not the Soroses of the world, Soros? Now, we've had the disclosures in the Russiagate stuff. I mean, maybe it's a good segue into the subpoenas for the Epstein files. Like, I mean, that maybe not the smoothest one, but do they do anything with Soros, or does he just get named in the Russiagate disclosures? And
well, you see, I mean, thanks to the aggressive efforts of the people out there, they are making enough noise that the even pay-for-play Pam has heard the noise, and the public opinion can motivate her to take the right action if enough noise is heard. Vice President Vance this morning with Fox saying there will be indictments. That's his direct message to Attorney General Bondi. There will be indictments, meaning she has to deliver those indictments. So apparently, finally got through to pay-for-play Pam.
What did I say? I had a revelation last week, which was Tulsi Gabbard in the Miranda Devine interview.
Yeah, you made the exact point that, yes, there needed to be. And what is it? This is Vance stepping up.
Okay.
Saying,
it's
clear there are going to be indictments. Hint, hint.
Okay. Every now and again.
Pam, who likes to filter through her TV channels, Tulsi Gabbard, there will be indictments. J.D. Vance, there will be indictments. That means there will be indictments. I increased the probabilities earlier this week to more than 50-50 that Clapper, Comey, Brennan get indicted. I'm hoping they add someone. I don't think they'll do Biden or Obama, but I would love it if they would add the Clintons, because the Clintons managed to meet the nexus of almost every scandal we've had for 30 years. Russiagate, Epstein, anything else you throw in, somehow the Clintons are connected to the scandal. So I'd love to see a Bill or a Hillary kicked in, but I think you will see they're organizing it out of 3 districts: the District of Columbia, the Southern District of Florida, and the Northern District of New York, in different aspects. And so the main one, I believe, will be handled by the newly appointed. Remember, there are 2 prosecutors who Congress did approve before their recess: Pirro at the District of Columbia, and I think it's Quinero. I'm going to mispronounce his name. Out of the Southern District of Florida. The latter one, I think Pirro's okay. I don't have as much confidence in her, but I don't want them to use the grand jury for any purpose other than investigation out of D.C. Mm-hmm. Indict out of the Southern District of Florida. Now, what they've also done, parallel, by the way, is they've announced who else was deeply involved in Russiagate. Congressman Adam Schiff. Guess what they've done? They've announced there is now a criminal investigation of Adam Schiff in the District of Maryland for mortgage fraud.
Yeah, that's in mortgage fraud, not lying under oath, perjury, whatever, concealment of evidence. Here, Robert, let me bring this up. This was Tulsi on Miranda Devine. She says, if I didn't cut it off too early, what's going to change? Here.
If they get away with it with Russia, the Russia hoax, what's ever going to stop it?
Accountability.
And does that mean
Accountability
jail?
has to take place.
Is that jail?
We've referred all of the documents we have found. We will continue to refer them to the Department of Justice for a criminal referral. Attorney General Pam Bondi has created a strike force team.
So this to me reads like it's like they're twisting her arm now that if she doesn't do it.
And Vance coming out saying there are going to be indictments today. That's his clear message.
Okay. And not knowledge that it's in the works. That's the nudging to make it happen.
Yes.
Some people are going to cry. Some people are going to cry political pressure from the administration.
And that's the way to do it, by the way. You don't say, I call on Pam Bondi. You just say, there will be indictments. That gets the message just as clear. And so credit to Vice President Vance, who's still the best spokesperson for President Trump's policies, in my opinion. I think he's better than Trump, God bless him, at intellectualizing Trumpism to the world. And so he did a great job in that presentation. And that meant that it's going to be the Southern District of Florida prosecutor. People pointed out he's connected to the National Security Division, and they were a little worried. He was just an associate with that. His background is he was a military guy. And then he went to law school late in life. He went to law school down at FIU, down in South Florida. So none of these fancy Ivy League nonsense schools. And then he was a JAG. He was a JAG for multiple years. Which means you're a military advocate inside the military system. And then he was briefly in the National Security Division, and he liked being a judge. He went down and became a state court judge. He has the right profile politically to be unafraid of who these people are. So as long as the right people are working with him, and I believe, and who else they announced? They announced Ed Martin is going to help out in some capacity. He's definitely helping out as the Schiff. So much that Preet Bharara, who I used to run circles around when he was at the Southern District of New York, he's the guy that the show Billions prosecutor is based on. I don't know if some of the habits of that prosecutor might overlap with Preet, but kind of let's just say there's some rumors. The Preet is going crazy about how Eagle Ed Martin, who comes from the Phyllis Schlafly Catholic conservative tradition out of St. Louis, is helping out on that case along with others. So it looks like they're really ratcheting up. I believe early on I started out as a skeptic because of doubts about Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to be able to get this done. Now it appears to me that the right cases are being referred, the right people are being referred, the right people are being involved. I think there's an very good chance now that we see meaningful indictments. Probably not of Obama, probably not of the Clintons, probably not of Biden, but probably yes of Brennan, probably yes of Comey, maybe for Clapper, and maybe some more as they get further in. Real indictments are coming on Russiagate within the year.
Now I'm getting confused. The subpoenas that went out this week were in Epstein? Or
were Epstein subpoenas
that's
issued related to that from the House of Representatives.
Okay, and the Clintons did get.
Clintons. I'll give them credit. That was a nice list. Bill and Hillary Clinton. I think George Soros is being subpoenaed in some capacity, or at least key allies and aides of George Soros. The additional people being subpoenaed include Bill Barr, include Alberto Gonzalez. It's a nice long fat list. Robert Mueller, who of course clearly, as soon as Robert Mueller they announced his subpoena, they said, "Oh, he's in a mental health home. He can't remember anything." Right? They did that famously in a case I had a big whistleblower in, or a potential government rat. Was going to out the rat, and that the rat was fake, that the government just did a bunch of illegal surveillance and disguised it and laundered it like the TV show The Wire through a bogus informant. And the moment he was supposed to appear in court, they came in and said, "Oh, Judge, he fell off the ladder and lost his memory." And even the judge started laughing. And the judge, I was like, "Judge, can you just give me all my subpoenas now?" And he's like, "Yeah, you have all your subpoenas now," which we got a lot of interesting stuff in that.
But Mueller, I don't think Soros is in here. No, Soros is not in here. We've got
it's one of Soros's aides, I think, has been subpoenaed in a separate parallel. So
it's wild, Robert. What's going to happen when they don't come?
You know how arrogant they are, right? I mean, there's no way Hillary Clinton takes the fifth, in my view. They're too arrogant. Every single one of these people is too arrogant.
But they are so arrogant, they're not going to show up. So
no, they will show up because then it's an automatic referral, an automatic criminal prosecution based on the precedent they just set with Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. So they will not only will they show up, They will be arrogant. It will be like Hillary did before the Benghazi committee. That's how they act. They will show up and they will insult the members for even daring to ask the question.
I want to get up that Hillary Benghazi face. I'll see if I can find the meme. So it's actually a very good point that now that they know they will be held in criminal contempt, so they'll come. They are arrogant pricks. They're going to answer the questions, and it'll be like not the duper's delight, but it's going to be okay. So, but hold on one second. What is the subpoenas were put on pause was it indefinitely or without a specific date for their appearance?
No, I think there are scheduled appearances for October, but usually that's up to negotiation. So over the next year, we'll see when they show up, how they show up. Do they have it be public hearings? Are they private depositions? What takes place? It does look like they won't give immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell, so Ghislaine Maxwell will not be testifying publicly before Congress.
It says August, September, October. Hold on. I'm just going to double check something in real time because I thought they had indefinitely postponed those because of Ghislaine Maxwell's because of
not anymore, not to my knowledge.
Okay, I'll double check that in a second. All right, well, that's phenomenal, Robert. Let me just go back here because that was all not a sidetrack, a tangent because of Zelensky question. Eyal Herzog says 10 months ago, the IDF published documents found in Gaza that included al-Shari's details and Hamas records. As a full-fledged operative, including receiving a salary from the terror organization, and despite this, he integrated and gained status at Al Jazeera with hundreds of thousands of followers. Despite, maybe because of it, we'll see. Text Master says the House Leader of Texas had a quorum a week ago and kept the session open only 7 minutes, then let the Democrats run because they control him. Without their votes, he would never have been House Leader. Blame weak and treasonous Rhino leadership for this entire debacle.
It's fascinating that Israel can get those kind of records, but they just can't find where Hamas is. They have to kill a bunch of women and children instead. They just can't seem to find Hamas leaders. How is that? I believe that intelligence, and yet at the same time believe they're incapable of reducing the number of Hamas because they've only reduced them by less than a third. According, in some cases, less than 5,000 of the 30,000 identified Hamas soldiers have been killed, and yet they've killed over 60,000 women and children and other civilians.
Depending on whose numbers you believe, and I'd be skeptical about the numbers, but it's a lot. It's a lot, and then intelligence.
How is it they just can't do that? They just can't find their way to do it. Golly gee, they keep trying, but they just can't. People are asking me to believe two contradictory things.
Yep. Bender is great says, I'm having an issue using the discount code. My subscription auto-updated and charged me full price. Cripe. I answered this one last week. I contacted the support, but I'll ask again. They say you get a warning 7 days in advance, I think was the answer. I'll deal with that. Eyal Herzog says, the anti-Israel sentiment is insane. What many people don't get is that Hamas wants to win by starving Palestinian civilians and getting them killed in the war.
That may be true, but who's doing the mass bombing? Who's grazing Gaza?
I'll say what is unfair is like when they airdrop food and it lands on kids who happen to be there. They blame Israel for that, which I don't know how you get the food.
Also, Israel chose to embargo any food coming in at all for several months. That was Israel chose to do that, and then when they've released the embargo, they refused to allow the UN to do it and decided to control it themselves. So I get they keep. The other thing is, how does that blend with public statements by Israel's leader of the national minister national security minister, saying the goal is to starve them out because he wants them to leave. So, I mean, the pro-Israeli crowd are just doing like this routine with their own leaders.
They are saying two mutually exclusive things, which is who said it to get them all out? It was Mike Davis. What was the word he used?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he used that
relocate.
Gaza. He said level Gaza. He said get. And it was, which is it? Don't pretend there's no starvation. Trump was screaming at Netanyahu this week about this. He was saying, quit lying to me about this. Quit lying. He goes, I have the intel. I have the information. Yes, starving is occurring. Quit lying to me. He's starting to figure out that that's all Bibi does. That right now, Bibi's aligned with the hard right. They want a greater Israel. They want destabilization by any country they consider an adversary. And they want to expel the Palestinians by ethnically cleansing Gaza. And they want to send them to you here in America. Mm-hmm. And if you're pretending otherwise, you're in a la-la land. You're in denial. And when you're an Israeli advocate and you're constantly contradicting yourself and you don't even realize it, you're part of the problem.
I'm going to read this one out here. How admirable it was on Thursday evening for Robert to take a thoughtful forum for an examination of the comments for many of his naysayers. Calmly, with the aplomb of a golf pro, he interrogated their idea, biases, and faulty logic behind their often nasty comments. Well done, Robert. Project Veritas released a
For
video.
those people out there, long-standing Israeli advocate, but I think what they're doing is endangering the future of Israel.
No, I can attest to the fact that you are a long-standing Israeli advocate because you got called Jewish. A Zionist is what they called you not long ago. All right, we'll come back to these in a bit. What do
we got big tech. Did you read that story about how they're setting up big tech apps to help perverts kidnap your kids?
Well, the Roblox. It's funny. I had a run in, not a run in with my kid. My kid is playing Fortnite, and we surveil them, and we know and he's talking to another kid. I was like, okay, who are you talking to? Oh, I'm talking to another kid. It's like, how do you know it's another kid? It's like, oh, you can tell in the voice. It's like, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised if they have voice things that change your voice to sound younger. But we keep a short leash on these games. And but Matt, no, the Roblox is crazy because they allow sharing of information in the chat. These kids, in the case there's was it a class action against Roblox? It's a lawsuit against Roblox, talking about how this has led to some kids getting abducted, sexually assaulted, returned home, but they arrest the people who are like middle-aged men who meet these kids who meet in person, the kids they meet on Roblox, and they're basically saying this game is a predator's paradise. I mean,
parents really need to pay attention. A lot of these apps are being designed without adequate security protocols.
Yep.
And the kid, what happened here was a 10-year-old girl thought she had befriended another child, and she was tricked into giving out her address. A 27-year-old sex offender kidnapped her. And fortunately, they were able to rescue her later on. But that's not usually how those stories end.
Yep.
And what they found was the way in which the pedophile found her and knew when she was going to be at a certain place, where she was going to be, was because of the app. And it's because the apps care only about maximizing volume. So they're deliberately choosing to do no screening for age verification, identity verification, proper use, protecting privacy, any of it.
So, some of them have location finders. I think it's Snapchat or some of these where
they even advertise these things as safe for kids. They're lying to parents about this.
It's wild. That's just the existence of the lawsuit. There's no judgment yet, but no, these companies. I mean, it's an amazing thing. I read a tweet the other day. It's like, don't you just love it? Don't you love the era when you turn things on and they just worked? You didn't have to log in. You didn't have to drop an email address. Games that were just games. Now it's like human interaction, and the kids down the street were talking to a girl. I'm like, dude, you're talking to a 54-year-old man who's trying to get you, and like understand that. And then I felt like a little bit of a weirdo telling the neighborhood kids that you're probably talking to a pedo if you're talking to someone who's making friends with you in the chat on Fortnite.
It's a serious problem. That the whole, I think there's increasingly a good argument for no technology being accessible to children.
Yeah, but it's not feasible, Robert. You need at least 10, 15...
I think that's why we need more legal mechanisms. For example, if you could put in legal mechanisms where companies like this would pay a massive damage award or fine for something horrendous happening facilitated by their technology. I just think we have to look at ways. I would be for creating extensive mechanisms of civil liability for any harm caused by the apps. Expand the scope of liability for these big tech apps because it's clear they are doing severe harm to our children in all kinds of capacity. They just did a study of young people and the degree of agreeableness, conscientiousness way down. Neuroticism is sky high. I mean, we've created a whole bunch. We experimented on our children in ways that have been extremely dangerous to those children, damaging to those children.
And I have the discussion with my kids where you have to say, well, Dad, you spend a lot of time on your phone. And it's like, first of all, it didn't exist when I was a kid. We've developed our executive function already where we know of the risks. We can sort of modulate our behaviors where you haven't developed the skills of an adult yet to even know how to play with this addictive toy as an adult. And I might very well probably have a problem in terms of the amount of time I spend on devices.
I get people's concern that it'll be misused to try to target adults and try to get identity information, et cetera. These are children's apps. All right. So that's what we're talking about. This is different than the online porn debate. These are children's apps. And that's my problem with it. Well, there's no legitimate purpose for the adult to be using these kids' apps in the first place.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's my problem.
And in as much as everybody hates the argument against anonymity in the internet. When you use these apps, I would have no problem with these apps requiring a facial ID recognition, upload a piece of ID if you want to use them. And that way, at the very least, you couldn't stop necessarily the awful behavior, but you'll definitely make it easier to find the people if and when.
You just make it harder. And I hope that, Patel and Bongino are finding creative ways to use things like this to go after the predators. Because obviously the predators are the problem, but we just don't want to make it easier for the predators. And these apps, the technology has just done far more harm than good for children.
The location,
more harm than good.
The location tracker or the ping, like the location thing on these on what Snapchat or whatever it is. I'm like, you better only have that with people you know by name, telephone number, and address. And like, it helps with
who
friends.
doesn't have this problem?
China.
I've seen it in live time.
Oh, say it again.
Who does not have this problem?
I would say China, but they have their other problems. Oh, the Amish.
Exactly. I see the Amish kids playing like kids played 100 years ago. And they're having fun. They're having enjoyment. They're not having this explosion of crime, anxiety, physical signs of severe mental health issues or physical health issues. So I'm like, we need to do things that incentivize a more Amish way of life. I'm not saying to require that or anything like that, but I'm saying we need to think along those terms more than we've done. Letting big tech invade our children's minds has been one of the worst things that's ever happened in America.
I appreciate someone saying your kids are your responsibility. True. Someone says no facial ID. They'll fake that as well. Maybe, but it'll make it a little bit harder. You want to use these apps. I mean,
remember, you had to deal with it with, cutting off, TikTok and things like that. I mean, there are people out there threatening to try to find your kids. I mean, it's just a problem.
Yeah, they think kids are easily manipulated to become the next generation of 2S LGBTQIA plus targets.
Yeah, when they're not busy trying to put your kid in the hands of a pedophile or a pederast, the big tech is busy wiretapping you on a regular basis, as Facebook got caught doing.
Yeah, what was the word they used? It was wiretapping. They were using Pixel and basically gathering information.
What's called a pen register?
Yeah, pen register.
A pen register records what numbers you call. A wiretap records the content of the communication. Facebook's defense was, you can't say it's both. Yes, it can be both. You can have a pen register and a wiretap, and they're doing both.
The pen register leads to the wiretap. There's no question they're gathering data that is in the content of private or conversations. However, it based on targeted ads, and
you can get on your own phone. You talk about something, and then all of a sudden you're getting an ad for it. You don't even search for it, and it shows up. And how do they do it? Well, and here's what was even amazing. I mean, the big tax software people should be getting hammered for this. H&R Block, your big tax slayer, your big tax software companies, according to this suit, have been helping Facebook spy on you, reporting your tax information, all the financial and personal information getting fed back to Facebook through this whistleblowing system designed under, they call it the Meta Pixel app. The part of Meta and the Facebook. I mean, Facebook changed the name to Meta to try to get away from all this stuff in their virtual simulation future world nightmare that obvious alien. If Candace Owens was going to go crazy on somebody, why not Zuckerberg? That dude, if he's not an alien, I don't know what's going on. It's like that lady on the plane. That dude ain't right. And you see in the back, it was Mark Zuckerberg. She was pointing to but. This is a patent violation of our privacy rights. Credit, they brought a class action and got it past the motion to dismiss in the discovery stage against Meta's latest version of big tech spying and stealing our rights.
Well, Robert, I mean, just by way of example, look at this. I go to Fox News and I see ads for Topps Chrome Black, Topps Chrome, Marvel. I mean, I have never talked about baseball cards and UFC fighting cards. If you want to send anybody, I'll give you the link to my post office box there. We'll open them up every Friday night. No, I'm joking, because when you Google, when you search for something, obviously it comes up. But things that come up that you discuss, because I know that there's certain things I discuss with my wife that I don't necessarily search on the internet. And then bam, I'm getting like women's products on my search, but maybe it goes through hers and they target me through their geolocating. I could see how they can get to me by one step away from having seen my...
I've been on the phone and an ad pops up 5 minutes later.
There's no question.
Yeah.
So Facebook, they got past they sought to dismiss it because they said it's not wiretapping, it's just auto.
It's just another form of spying. It's just a pen register. No, you're doing both, you bums. The finally exposed. I wish there would be more criminal investigations of that. I wish there would be a part of the antitrust division might look at that at the Justice Department. I'm hoping we see broader remedies for their scope and scale of their illegality. But credit this week to Rumble. which got a big win against California.
Yeah, this was the piece of legislation was targeting deep fakes and
Remember,
political.
basically it was Newsom getting mad about getting parodied online. So he was trying to ban parodies, and they wanted to go further than that and ban disinformation and force all kinds of private information to be disclosed to the state. And Rumble, to their credit, took the lead on challenging this law.
So we predicted. We predicted at the time it would obviously be struck down. I'm fairly certain. I'm trying to remember the steel manning of it.
I mean,
we made so many jokes.
Really, speech. It was they were trying to deal with consumer protection, and they were trying to be in that space. Commercial speech, in some cases, they were arguing that none of that was credible. They had two problems: the constitutional problem, which the court didn't even have to get to, because the court pointed out Section 230 and other laws preempt this kind of state law regulation. They've used Section 230 for a lot of bad things to cover up. At least they could use Section 230 for something good, like protecting free speech. And credit to Rumble for taking the lead, got the federal court to strike down the law and protecting our free speech rights. Rumble continues to be, God bless Elon, but Rumble, and Elon later joined the suit, but Rumble is clearly still at the tip of the spear for protecting free speech in the tech space.
Absolutely. And I remembered at the time, putting out a tweet and saying, oh, this will get you arrested in California. Hold on, guys. It's hilarious.
He has no plan to replace it. He said
Shit.
concepts of a plan.
And
Are you gonna watch the debate?
And then I said, in Gavin Newsom's California, this video could get you arrested. We were needling him butt proper at the time. Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Great work by Chris Pavlovsky and his crew over there at Rumble. Now we got a couple of other celebrity case news items. We've got Blake Lively losing. We've got the Ethan Klein of H3H bringing a big fair use copyright suit about review videos and winning a subpoena for Redditors who thought they were anonymous. Surprise, surprise. You gave your identity to Reddit, so you're not quite as anonymous as you think. We've got medical students suing over application fees on antitrust grounds. And then to a litany of questions that people had. We got a big settlement for Ripple, but also a real big settlement for Gina Carano, along with a list of cases and questions that the board had. That will be sort of short answer. Peanut the squirrel, can he get justice? Tish James, is her fat ass finally going to prison where it belongs? We got Nate Morris and Paul Dans, good challengers in Kentucky and South Carolina a lot. Brandon Herrera talking about running again in Texas. The special attorney statute, where they're dismissing indictments in New Jersey because the courts hate Alina Habba that much, which must mean she's really doing her job. Debanking, AI trying to discriminate against old employees, and legalization of pot. So we got a reign of more short topics to cover the rest of the night.
We'll move quick. I'll go through some of these. T1990, I'll just read this one here. Parents should get their kids a Nintendo Switch. Yes, and you can play sports games. We just played golf with my kids before going live. Can't the feds temporarily seize all...
You made sure to humiliate him?
Well, he was up by 10 strokes, and I said, dude, I'm going to crush him. No, well, he was doing well, but then he loses. I know that he's got a short attention span, and so we played 9 holes, so I came back on the last 2. Where was I here? It said, can't we just temporarily seize all of Soros' assets? Are they going after Soros as well? If they do, hopefully they will be able to prove.
I hope they do.
Yeah. Itsy Bitsy Spider. Viva, can you please cut this Russian discussion and post separately? I have friends that need to see this. Yeah, I'll do that. I post some clips.
Again, we're going to do an extensive live Tuesday, 10 a.m. with the Duran, covering what is the possibility of peace at the Trump-Putin summit coming this Friday.
And so China has the most to lose. How will they try to blow up the deal, says Hans One Pack. Pinochet's helicopter tours. Never forget the second JFK and Khrushchev decided to join forces for space. The thing happened to John. Kicking Snow says, great show. Thanks, Harry Toe. Repeal the 19th, except for this channel. Smart, beautiful, and good-smelling women. Eric, who was that? Harry Toe. Eric 4x4. Brandon Herrera is running for Texas. We're going to get that in a second. Other side of the mountain. Is there a legal problem with politicians accompanying ICE raids as monitors? It may prevent anything agreed. No, they'll get involved and they'll blow things up themselves. What's going on with the Francis Scott Kelly Bridge in Maryland? Thank you.
That's the bridge that got hit. I don't know. I've not heard anything else.
All right, Gina Carano. What did they? Was there a monetary amount on the settlement? I know they promised.
We don't know what but you can fairly assume so. So Gina Carano, wrongfully discriminated, blacklisted by Disney and other companies after being a very successful actress, was very popular with the Mandalorian series and others. She voiced some just some very light skepticism of COVID politics and policy. And for it, they blacklisted her. While that lunatic Pedro Pascal went around on whatever crazy thing when he's not, grabbing women and other things randomly, he got promoted instead. And while Fantastic Four is getting whacked at the box office because it's another failure of Disney's Marvel Alliance, Disney, contrary to what all of the media lawyers said, they said, this case is going to be dismissed. She has no ground. It's still illegal to discriminate on political grounds in California, has been for many years. The Unruh Act, I've named after Senator Jesse Unruh. And we predicted that she would prevail in the motion to dismiss. And so it was time to get into discovery. Now, there were people who wanted that discovery publicized. I understand. I think it's called Sweeper, something like that. They have a channel on YouTube and Rumble. They cover a lot of interesting cultural commentary. The Sideswiper, something like that. They were disappointed that they didn't get to see the published discovery. It was unlikely that discovery ever would have been published anyway, unless they went all the way through to trial. And so, but ultimately, Disney cried mea culpa and said, let's settle.
Let's talk.
Settle. It means movie deals. It means big checks being written, effectively apologies being given. Credit to Gina Carano, who it looked like they had crushed her. She used her case to crush them instead and stand up against cancel culture. Big win for Gina Carano and against cancel culture writ large in Hollywood.
It's very interesting. Like they've undertaken to do business with her in the future, and I don't know how you go back to doing business with them. But at the end of the day, it is a question of dollars, and so everyone's going to be happy if she gets paid enough and she makes money for them. They will forgive and forget about the idiotic, not attempted cancel culture. This act of cancel culture. I'm looking at the list here. We got
the other settlement was Ripple settled with the SEC because finally, under the Trump administration, they're backing off of crypto. Now there's one big place they still need to go on crypto.
Roger Ver, people. Bitcoin Jesus.
Exactly. Please, for the love of God, dismiss all charges against Bitcoin Jesus if you care about crypto and you don't want to continue to endorse Biden administration criminal lawfare. Roger Ver is innocent of the charges against him. They're trying to remake tax law to be able to impose a wealth and property tax on you disguised as an exit tax. The people think, I will never exit, so that won't hit me. They're trying to establish the right to be able to tax property, period. And they're not going to limit it to exit. And they're trying to do it through criminal prosecution, in this case, a selective prosecution of Roger Ver, who repeatedly promised to pay them everything he owed, simply even had to do a FOIA request, begging them to tell him how much he owed, and they still wouldn't tell him, and they indicted him instead.
But Robert, in the XRP case, so XRP still had to pay $50 million as part of the settlement. They removed their designation. What was it, a bad actor or a malicious actor? They had designated them.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was the SEC trying to weaponize its power to control crypto. And thankfully, the Trump administration has said no more of that. And so the SEC is dismissing all of its claims against Ripple. And it's another sign the SEC is out of the crypto harassment.
But they still, am I wrong? They still, XRP still paid $50 million to settle this, no?
It's not clear to me what money, nothing additional was exchanged as part of this, to my knowledge.
Okay. And this is good news for XRP. I held a little bit of XRP back in the day and sold it when they got into all these problems. And I get best. Everybody has said diamond hands are all happy now because they're predicting $5 by the end of the year in short order. Okay, so that's good for crypto. Things should.
Now, someone who, in New York, we have a couple of cases of justice. The one case is, it turns out Letitia James is now under investigation for both her mortgage fraud, but they're finally taking up on what we've talked about. Said everything they're doing to President Trump, what they also did to Tina Peters, what they also did to Kurt Benschoof in Seattle, what they did is weaponize the legal system to deprive and deny people their civil rights. And it's starting to get out there in the zeitgeist that this is both civilly prosecutable and criminally punishable. The systematic conspiracy to deprive people of their civil rights. And it's the left who decided to expand this. They're the ones who decided to use the Ku Klux Klan Act to go after a guy for making a meme. They're the ones who decided to go after President Trump, to go after everybody who merely had speech connected to January 6th. The only person who completely dodged accountability for January 6th is that Fed, Nick Fuentes, who magically escaped all responsibility.
And Ray Epps, he got his.
Oh yeah, we know what Ray was up to. Ray was a Fed from day one. So there's people that still believe that Fuentes is banned from banking, and that Fuentes was on a no-fly list. There was never any proof of that. And people that have offered at various times to help him out, he refused their offers because he's just doing a martyr campaign, pretending he's Jesus. Not that he would ever pretend that because he hates the Jews. But so if you, and people don't realize he's believed and spouted the worst conspiracy theories about Jews known to man. Number one, if you're anti-Israel, if you're pro-Israel, if you're Mossad, you want everybody going to Nick Fuentes because he discredits the anti-Israel cause simply by association with his virulent, violent anti-Semitism, and is proud of it. But the people say, hey, Barnes, he's more America first than anybody. Oh, really? So supporting Kanye and Kamala Harris over Donald Trump in 2024 is more America first. What kind of nitwit are you? I get a lot of incels in their home, living in their closets and their basements like the guy. Okay, so more luck to you. But in that broader capacity or context, speaking of justice, is they finally realized civil rights systematic violations, and there's 2 cases they're pursuing it. In one case, the U.S. government is pursuing it against Letitia James in New York, wisely not using the Southern District of New York, using the Northern District of New York, up in Albany, more countryside up there, much more reasonable jury pool, much more reasonable judicial pool. So Tish, like Adam Schiff, might be facing some real consequences. And Peanut the Squirrel is seeking justice for his wrongful execution by those commies in New York, as the owners are suing the city, the county, the state, and all the individuals involved for their murder of Peanut the Squirrel.
They should sue everyone, and if there's any justice whatsoever, they will get. There's not like, I don't know how much they would have to get paid. It will never be worth it. But there needs to be punitive deterrence and compensatory awards, because it was, we lived through that. It was I think that it played in part in Trump getting reelected, because people got to see just how egregious it could get. Come in and murder your pets.
Now,
Robert,
did you see what they're offering in Denmark?
Jog my memory.
The zoo.
No.
Oh, you didn't hear the story. The Denmark Zoo was offering people to bring their pets to the zoo. People were like, oh, that's interesting. Guess what they're asking them to bring the pets for?
To feed them to the zoo animals.
To the predators.
Robert, I swear to you, my father just said that we had our Zoom call before we went live, and I'm showing him Pudge, who she's got a massive growth. I don't know. It just happened in the last week or two. She's got a UTI again. She's got a yeast infection in her ears, and he's like, go take her out back and feed her to the gators. He's joking, everybody. But then he didn't mention that. Live or dead, Robert?
Live. It's more fun live. Bring him in.
Shut up. Hold on 1 second.
Look, watch the kitty cat try to escape the gator.
Denmark Zoo pet feeding. What? Bizarre and wrong. Oh my goodness. You know, the funny thing is I just saw, and okay, hold on. Let me see. Am I going to get any more ads for?
I know they've been pumping those ads up everywhere.
Bizarre and wrong. Danish zoo sparks debate with plea for pets to use as food. Oh, well, first of all, if you're going to get eaten by something, you may as well get eaten by a beautiful animal. A carcass feeding is a regular feature at zoos for predators, such as the Florida panther. Dude, that's amazing. I mean, okay, fine. You have to kill the animal first. You can't throw a live dog in there. That would be too much.
Gladiator style zoo, new entertainment.
Oh my god! Anybody who would take their pet in there to be fed to an animal would have to be a psychopath, or really, really, really hate the pet.
Or they work for the state of New York that likes to kill Peanut the Squirrel.
Holy cows! Okay, Robert, hold on. Let me. We don't want to fall too far behind. We're going to get to these afterwards, but Pihan says they could be using that $50 million for the arrest as a way to get information on them, get inside or turn them over. Cousin Eddie, Robert, have you looked into Brandon Herrera, who's trying to get to beat the Rhino Gonzalez in Texas? The Republican primary. Okay, so Brandon Herrera,
his candidacy, or last time too. Hopefully, he is successful. We've got offers out to talk to Paul Dans, who's challenging childless, churchless, war whore Lady Lindsey Graham for the Senate in South Carolina. To Nate Morse, who's challenging the McConnell machine in Kentucky. To Brandon Herrera, who's challenging, as you mentioned, in Texas, Thomas Massey. So we're going to be bringing back the sidebar series for useful, interesting, engaging populist candidates, because we were one of the first people to platform the one and only J.D. Vance, when he was thinking about running for the Senate in Ohio, talked about his Mima and her love of Dirty Harry and those huge guns. So yes, that is coming back soon.
I'm just looking. I follow. We both follow each other, Brandon Herrera, on Twitter. We'll get him on. That'd be amazing. Let's see here. Bring this. Hold on. I got to get back here. Cliff Norman says the data on gerrymandering by 8 blue states, California. See, I don't know. I mean, I understand the words that I'm reading. I just don't understand how it plays out. But okay, so there's gerrymandering. Democrats are scoundrels. We knew that. Don't pluck your eyebrows. Sometimes they grow back. Sometimes they don't grow back. It's not plucking them. It's a worse habit than that. Regarding rare earth minerals, the biggest challenge for the USA is loss of processing capacity over environmental problems with the toxic waste produced, which contains uranium, thorium, a bunch of heavy metals. Trump needs to hold design review meetings with industrial complex and chemical processes. I was just listening to the woman who wrote Murder Town, she was on Rogan talking about how equating lead in the air and in the pollutants, arsenic with serial killers and violence in general. Very interesting show. Viva, you should look into how Glenn Beck's son was groomed and brainwashed through his PS4. You should have Glenn on to talk about it. Done. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And then
someone asked about the how to donate things for the auction. I've put that up at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. The contact points of who you can email to be able to donate things for the auction. Always appreciated for that.
Robert, who's pleb, please? I forget the Shopify or the Etsy station. I got one in the back here, but what I was looking at,
those are beautiful.
They're amazing.
We have that donated for the auction. Those are beautiful, beautiful wood-made art.
Someone has donated an AR-15?
Yes, indeed.
How much do these things cost retail? I have zero idea.
Honestly, nor do I. Other people around me have guns. I myself have never owned a gun.
Robert, what do we do now? Do we take this over to the locals after party, or do we?
We got probably one detailed topic to cover here, and then some other quick topics. The quick topics are, maybe there's 2 detailed topics here, and then there's some quick ones. The quick ones are medical students suing over application fees, the Blake Lively losing her lawyer subpoena, Visa and MasterCard debanking gamers at places like Steam, Workaday AI getting sued over its denial of age discrimination and its employee filtering, and potential lowering the level of basically pot decriminalization by President Trump. The 2 bigger topics we have is, will Ethan Klein's lawsuit lead to the end of review videos, as some people are suggesting online? What does fair use mean? And the special attorney statute, will a bunch of cases get dismissed out of the District of New Jersey by courts that continue to wage war on President Trump's pick, which is Alina Habba, to be the United States attorney there, who has been reappointed pursuant to the special attorney statute. So those 2 are the special attorney statute and the copyright are the sort of the bigger topics. And then we could save all the others for after party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
So I'm not up to speed with the Ethan Klein one. I mean, I know what review videos are, but did he file because he's preventing other people from reviewing his content, or to protect his ability to review other people's content?
So previously, he established one of the lead precedents in the country after being sued on the grounds that you have a right to review, and that review videos fit within fair use content as long as done in a particular manner.
Yeah, and not just those stupid React videos where they play the entire video and just go.
Correct. That's what he's now suing over. Huh. So he put out he saw that tons of people were just ripping off his content, pretending to be a review video where they often say nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling my kids about this as well. It pisses me off to no end. They play the video and they just make a stupid face in the bottom on a short, effectively ripping it off, offering nothing new except for their ugly face overlaid on a video that is otherwise intact.
And this is, H3H for those who may not know. And these people were bragging about it. They went to Reddit and said, here's how you can steal his content without viewing it and without monetizing his content. Here's the channels to go do it. A bunch of those channels went and did it. And in some cases, they literally said nothing for 70 minutes. In one case, the person appeared to be high. I mean, another person. So he was like, okay. And he gave him notice. He recorded his video as copyright. They played the full video. They bragged that they were stealing it. So he brought suit. And it shocked some of the people in that world who are just basically pure grifters. They go find popular content, put it up, pretend it's theirs when it's not theirs, think they can get away with it as fair use, monetize the heck out of it, and that's all they do. They find and he particularly hate watchers. In other words, these are people that watch somebody because they hate. I mean, I get them. There's people who still hate me over the Nick Rekieta thing, or the Lynn Wood thing, or the Sidney Powell thing, or the Israel thing on both sides. 1 minute you're a Zio cuck, the next minute you're a Jew hater. And then all they do is they hate watch, and then they type in and they get into the live chats and all the rest. But what they love to do is to hate watch without monetizing your channel. And so Ethan Klein was done with it. H3H brought a good suit. He understood this law very well. And he's going to win these suits. He just won a subpoena because all these Redditors thought they were anonymous. He got a subpoena on Reddit to disclose their identities because people don't know you're not as anonymous as you think you are. I've won these in other contexts. There are people who are libeling Owen Schroyer. We brought suit on his behalf. We figured out who it was, forced him to stop libeling Owen Schroyer. This was the guy pretending to be Owen Schroyer online. That's how he was libeling him. Now, by the way, another pay-for-play Pam disaster. Owen Schroyer, who was wrongfully swatted, the FBI and DOJ said they were going to do something about it. Completely dropped the ball. So
it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It's another we'll probably have until this gets fixed. There will be a segment each week on pay-for-play Pam's failures this week until it starts getting fixed. But so I think Ethan Klein's going to win. For those people that don't know, fair use is transformative. You recreate it into art that is your own. This is how Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, won way before. In that case, he just played part of her video, but he played it in such a way that it was new art because it was such brilliant satire that she sued because of how annoyed she was at the satire, not at him copying, clipping her art, her
Yeah, I'm trying to find one to show as an example. It's the TikTok trend where they have a person, it's like a rectangular thing. They've got a face on the bottom pointing up and just making stupid faces while they play the entire video.
Transformative means you make it your own. In other words, you see it and you go, oh, that's that person's art, not that person's art.
Well, it's the difference between cutting the clips for commentary and drawing the traffic away so they no longer need to see the original anymore, monetizing it. But I never did it, and people get pissed at me because when you have video licensing agencies licensing the video, if you do it, they claim your video, and sometimes they give you a strike, and then people get mad. It's like if you just play the squirrel video and you have a face that's like, I wouldn't care, but I don't have to do it. But I know not to do it because you're not doing anything other than just playing the video and making some stupid non-insightful face.
And this is different than trial coverage, which I believe the right is there should be nothing copyrighted about that because that should be public. The public's supposed to have access to any trial that occurs. So it's different than those cases. I think he's going to win his suit because these uses that he's identified are not fair use. Fair use is not, I say something. Fair use is transformative. You remake it to make it yours.
Oh,
I watch it. I know it's your piece, not their piece, even if you're reviewing somebody else's work.
Who was the attractive, I want to say Korean girl? There was a case that we covered and I took shit for because it's like what they're doing is not reaction. They're just stealing the content.
Yes.
And they were crying about how their channel got strikes and they can no longer do reaction videos. It was 4 letters, SX. Oh,
yeah, I'm vaguely remembering.
The chat's going to get it in a second. I'll go down there to watch it. All right, that's cool. I mean, I don't like Ethan Klein's a bit of an asshole, but
complete prick, insatiable, incorrigible prick. But he's right legally on this side of the aisle, and he's documenting a real problem. The other big one is Alina Habba. For those who don't remember, Trump appointed her. The Senate, refused to do their job, so she wasn't reaffirmed before they went on recess. So the DOJ reappointed her as special assistant counsel under the special assistant statute. This got litigated in the Jack Smith context. The New Jersey courts are so hostile to Habba, they are dismissing indictments, claiming that she has no authority. Now, there's a whole different problem with that. Even if she didn't have authority, that's not grounds to dismiss the indictment. I've raised this in a wide range of contexts. No court has ever ruled that until now. That's how much they hate Alina Habba. So that's how corrupt the New Jersey federal courts, whole friggin' courthouse, frankly, is. And then I have to deal with them on several different cases, and it's just a cesspool, unfortunately. The issue is the difference between her and Jack Smith is they tried to appoint Jack Smith without Jack Smith being a U.S. attorney at all, without going through any of those protocols, without it even appears taking the proper oath. Jack Smith is now by referral, he's now under criminal investigation. Nobody deserves it more than that creep. in terms of what he did, not only here, but also in the ICC, International Criminal Court, before that. Some people were asking whether Putin could get arrested because there's an outstanding warrant from the International Criminal Court. The United States is not part of that court. It has refused that court, rejected that court, and sanctioned that court, just FYI. So there is literally zero chance of that occurring when Putin meets Trump here in Alaska at the end of the week. So I think that there is still good arguments. So people remember the Jack Smith indictments getting dismissed because of the court's determination that he exceeded his power. The other key difference was in the Jack Smith case, he was claiming power independent of and separate from and without effective review of the Attorney General. These indictments are being brought in New Jersey on behalf of the Attorney General, for which she simply has a supervisory role as the special assistant counsel. So I don't think that the precedent set in the Trump case governs this case because of that big difference with her being subordinate to the Attorney General, whereas they consider Jack Smith independent and separate from the Attorney General when he never even been U.S. Attorney in the first place.
By the way, I found it. It was MXR Plays was the channel, and this is now we've got someone reacting to MXR Plays, not reacting to the videos.
There you go. Yeah,
This is what they. This is what.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm not gonna. They used to watch videos and just be cute, and then they got strikes, and then they complained about it. I said that what they're doing is not fair use at the time, and then I got accused.
Again, transformative. Is it something that when I watch it, I realize that's your art piece, not their art piece?
Robert, okay, that's good. That's cool. Look, we'll take the rest over. I'm going to read some of the chats here. Robert, I'm going to do a little shameless. So I got to share this guy with the world because he's hilarious. Okay, this guy's been doing. This is what I want to do. I want to open up packs that people send, read messages. This guy's hilarious. A pack rips. We'll see if.
You think that these are obese packs, and I think Score is going to have an autograph.
Okay, so he does super fast editing, and it's hilarious opening packs.
You had success on UFC picks.
Oh, yeah. So how did I do, by the way? Because I feel like 4-on-6 is good, but I think I lost badly on Dolije because he had the biggest odds. I mean, he should have won that fight.
Well, it still netted money.
Okay, good.
He made money.
I've been above. That was 2/3 last night. It was above average the last time, and the first time I was really on fire. All that to say, people, send packs of cards to my post office box. I'm sort of joking, not joking at all, because I want to do like Friday afternoon what Casey Neistat used to do: unbox, unpack things, and read letters that people want read, not doxing people. But it won't start this Friday because we're going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the weekend meetup. What was I about to do? We're going to go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party. Yeah, is it real water? Okay, the kid's bringing me water. This looks very, very suspicious.
He seems like a natural prankster.
Yeah. Okay. Look at it. Is it real water?
Yes.
It's water. I'll keep it. Thank you very much. Get out. We're gonna go to vivabarneslaw. He put tape on it, so it was much harder to stick to the straw. That was the trick.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I'm thirsty. I was thirsty. All right. Robert, you're doing what this week on the
Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live with the Duran, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Locals. What is the probability or possibility of meaningful peace and an end to the Ukraine war and détente between the U.S. and Russia at this summit this coming Friday between Trump and Putin in the state of Alaska?
Okay, and I just got one last Rumble rant that came in asking for the link to the auction. I'm going to do that right now. Somebody just posted your address. Don't worry, it's a PO box. It's not my address. Don't worry about it. I hope it's a PO box. Here is a link to here. This is the link to the auction. And right now, what was I just about to say? One other thing. Oh yes, tomorrow I need to get the guy's name. I keep forgetting his name. My bad. It's the guy who just got $28,000 ticket for being in the forest. Oh, come on. I'm so senile with these names. Hold on. I can't even find it. My Twitter feed is so flipping. His name is Jeff Evely. For goodness sake, I want to say Evie, but it's Evely. Jeff Evely is going to be on tomorrow. Maybe someone from the JCCF as well. We're going to raid Salty Cracker before we go. If I'm allowed to raid Salty Cracker, Does he have raid turned on here? Hold on 1 second. /raid. Come on, man. Does he not let people raid?
He usually doesn't know.
Son of a beasting. Well, all right, yeah, that channel can't be raided. So let me get.
Oh, some people had asked, by the way, hey, Barn, did you see they dropped the suit on Candace Owens? Yeah, they dropped it on her head.
They didn't drop it.
There's no dropping of the suit, folks. That was fake news that got spread.
Yeah, I had to double check with my source. I said I didn't see that. I don't know how, so who we're gonna go. We're gonna go send.
As even Salty Cracker pointed out, she was starting to act desperate. She's like, why hasn't Trump in advance intervened in this? I don't know, because you made up a bunch of crazy stuff you can't back up. Maybe, I don't know. Just say it.
Is Cool Frog live right now? Okay, Cool Frog is live. It'll be better than a gaming channel. He does good work. His view. Let's go raid Cool Frog. He's going to raid a gaming channel, but I don't think anybody's going to be particularly interested in that. Confirm raid and come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party. Raid confirmed. Let me see something here. Lots of FUCKs in the cracker, and I'll give the link to Salty Cracker anyhow in case people want to go and see Salty, who's foul mouth. I can't find the link. Okay, whatever. We're going over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Everybody, I will be live tomorrow daily, off a little bit timing wise, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, hopefully back to 3:00, but we'll see. We're going to have our after party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com now.